Alright, let's start the stream for today. Yeah, it's been kind of crazy, I gotta say. I wanted to start it a bit earlier, but uh, seems like I'm in the middle of some beef again online with somebody. This time it's like actually one of those bigger accounts. I'll tell you more about it in a moment, but uh, yeah, it's just crazy stuff all around. Realize that a lot of people are just very reactionary to everything, and I guess that's ironic coming from me, isn't it? But seriously, like, people are trying to have a conversation, and every single time everyone is just so up in their own ego. um so yeah, let's start the stream already. uh and yeah, we'll be talking about the recent Superman developments, and Alanah Pearce's video about the whole uh, situation with her video on disabilities and accessibility, because I wanted to do a second part to that, because she really did go off on this tangent last time that we did go over that, and we kind of dissected her entire argument as to why we need to have accessibility, and I've provided a lot of counters to that, right? She's like just going off on this tangent about why we need accessibility. But when you kind of like hone in on what she's saying, it's a very corporate elitism that's predominantly taking over the conversation. It's not anything of substance, it's a lot of just talking about um, how these designs need to be implemented without realizing what it's really going to do. And so yeah, we went over that stuff already, so I don't think we need to like go over that again. You can go to the last stream. But yes, she created a new video because she felt the need to double down on the whole thing, and I expected her to kind of like double down on it once um she posted her main reply at the top of the comment section for her first video. And she seems very defensive all around, right? Very defensive about the whole situation, doubling down on the notion that yes, indeed, children in this case are what she considers a situational disability, and that is what she and it's not what she believes, it's a fact. Well, it's not a fact. Let's just make that very clear. It's just something that somebody decided was going to be made into a fact, and that needs to be a distinction that has to be made, because it is a problem that we are now calling children a disability. And she basically posted a video, and it's insane because she, one, posted the video, and number two, um, she changed the title of that video. So we'll get into that. That's going to be like the second half of this stream. It's going to be a response stream. We're going to be responding to a lot of people, but the first half is, of course, going to be about. It's going to be very much about the James Gunn outfits, and not just that. It's, I think we're starting to be in this spot where people who thought it was going to be about just about the outfit are now making it about something else, because we're getting more images from the sets, and now they're making it about Superman's morality and how he acts and all that stuff. So it's like, okay, whatever. It's like so, and then it's about like optimism and what Superman should be represented as. So I do like that it's become much more than just about. Hold on. Let me just check something. All right. I was going to say that it's become much more than just a discussion about the costumes themselves. It's actually become about, the character and how he deserves to be represented. And yeah, so it's really going to dive into this deeper discussion. And I got to tell you guys, like, as of late, I've been getting into like a lot of these discussions, and I'm realizing that, it's like, wow, a lot of people are, kind of like responding to me. that was kind of like part of the beef that delayed this stream. I had people writing to me, and it's because of course I was making, like, I thought I was making a good point, and so I see what's happened. Of course. Hold on. I gotta fix something first. It appears I am having some video issues, but that's not going to be a problem for long. Don't worry about it. It is going to be fixed. Hopefully we don't overdo it. Good. And I think now we'll be able to get the video. I've been having problems with this one video, and I think it's going to be working now. Hopefully, no. Dang. All around struggle. But yeah, you guys commented stuff. Hey, Moodcap, I see you're here. And Far Cry Lego is here as well. Children are a responsibility, not a disability, says Moodcap. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. It's just ridiculous to make any sort of other comment that says otherwise. I mean, the fact that some people think that they might be like a situational disability says a lot about the materialistic side of where we are right now. And let's see, I'm gonna try to get this video up and running again. But yeah. Alright, if this doesn't work... Oh, hold on. Yeah, like I said, I'm sorry if I'm all over the place today, but it's been crazy. It's kind of crazy because today was a pretty like light day for me, right? It's been pretty like swell in terms of like, oh, I have enough time to organize my stream and everything. And then when you actually get to it, it turns out that it is like just so much stuff happened today that it's just all just disappeared. And I have the Alanah video, so maybe we'll just start with that before I get to the rest. But yeah, so maybe that's what we'll just end up doing. Maybe we'll start with Alanah, which goes against our plans. But I'm having issues with this other video right now. And yeah, it's been out. I've been out all day. What do you mean by out? Have you been dead? Okay. Alright, so maybe let us you know what? I think see, I don't understand why it's not working anymore. Since it says I'm running out of space apparently on my computer, but it's like that doesn't make sense because I just deleted all of it. So it should be working just fine. It doesn't. What is it? Wow. Oh, brother. If this is going to continue being a problem, then we are not going to be able to watch the Superman video. And we're going to have to watch the Alanah. Okay, fine. Let's start watching the Alanah one in that case. And I'll try to get the other one going then. In the meanwhile. So yeah. As you guys can see, crazy stuff all around. Alright. So, this first video... Let me bring it up.
Allow me to explain. Hello, everyone. If you don't...
Allow me to explain. So her first video is called Let Me Explain ... I don't know why there are 5 dots as opposed to 3, but it's called Let Me Explain Situational Disabilities and Accessibility Design. So right away, the title of this video is pretty telling. It's already condescending. It's already like, allow me to explain, guys. Allow me to clarify something. Allow me to educate you on something. And it's like, you are going to educate me on something, okay. But you can already kind of hear the distaste the person has. And it's, yeah, it's like she is just not going to she is going to double down on her entire stance on this whole thing, which is unfortunate, of course. Right. So let's now get to the video. And after the video, I'm going to run down basically everything else that happened, and also maybe tell you a bit more about like the beef. I'll definitely talk about it on my Instagram page tomorrow, since it seems to still be pending. And it's probably going to happen like during the stream too. So it's like, hopefully it's just not too distracting. I'll just try to focus on this stream, guys, because it's really just, I'll tell you more about it for sure. But yeah, not very cool in general. All right. What is it that you're going to say, Alanah? Speak to us. So, same chick as before.
know me, I'm Alanah, and I work 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. at a AAA game studio. I am a writer on the design team, but I also work as an accessibility consultant, and I've done that on 7 separate games so far. I'm credited as an accessibility consultant on God of War Ragnarok because that is the most work that I did on that game was in the accessibility space. And I also created my own award show called the Video Game Accessibility Awards. We've run that for 2 years. I took a break last year because God of War Ragnarok came out, and it would be very weird to have an award show the same year as the game that you worked on accessibility, even though I don't vote on it. It's voted on by a full panel of disabled gamers.
So right away, she starts off being kind of upfront about where she stands within this whole discussion, where she kind of sees herself in this point of accessibility, which was always a weird point of, it was always a weird place of like to talk from, because it's like, we're talking about difficulty in video games. Why are you making this about accessibility? We were talking about, of course, about Elden Ring. And yes, I have talked to my friends about the Elden Ring stuff that she said. She said that, you know, the game devs, you know, bent the knee, essentially. They agreed with the gamers who criticized Elden Ring, the DLC, for being too difficult by creating patches to the game. But my friend told me that the patches are always, and this isn't just for Elden Ring, so this is something I knew inherently too, that patches and updates are not always just something to, like, there's something that's an industry standard. There's nothing weird about there being an update that fixes or adds balancing fixes to a lot of enemies, and you know, the changes are to be expected, is what I'm trying to get at. And so her trying to turn it into this whole thing where it's like, hey, no, actually the devs listen to you guys. You double down and on the fact that, you know, you guys voice your opinions and the devs actually listened to you. And that's not telling the whole story, because again, updates, post, there's even like day one patches, day one updates. Bethesda knows what I'm talking about. Plus, like, she knows this, okay? She knows that those are things. So for her trying to take that industry standard, which, you know, say what you want about updating your game and making it more, making it easier, right, to make those changes. Crap, something is just not working with this today, because I'm trying to download it. But yeah, for her trying to take something that is an industry standard and say, all right, well, clearly they were trying to, I'm going to make this a part of what I'm talking about. No, that's industry standard. Stop trying to kind of put that and give yourself credit for that, or like to like claim that as part of what the narrative was, how things turned out. It's like, oh, they read the criticisms, therefore it means that it should be okay, right? No. And that's not what that means at all. Not even close. So it's not even close. That's just, you're trying to stir up a narrative that doesn't exist. And now that's very dishonest, right? So that's what she was trying to do. And so my friend told me, yeah, it's just a regular patch. They rebalanced some stuff. They added some stuff to make it rebalance. It's just a normal approach of the industry, right? We don't need to say anything else to that. And so he agreed with me on that. It was to be expected. That's what video game developers do. And so, uh, oh, I think we're gonna get our video downloaded. Great, awesome, guys! I'm so happy. Let's finish this one. Um, and yeah, it's downloading, guys. Yes, good. I did it. Awesome. I'm just so happy right now. uh, Sweet. All right. And now let's get on with the rest of this video. But before we do that, let's read your comments. Um, not been a, not been free until like a few minutes ago. I mean, I went out today. Oh, that's great. And see how coincidental that is that you happen to, uh, you know, to have your, the stream starts just now and you're here. So it all worked out in the end. I just knocked another game off my backlog, says Moodcap. Ooh, and it's Spider-Man Web of Shadows. I haven't played that one, so that's pretty cool. And Far Cry Lego says my favorite Spidey game besides Spidey 2 with Tobey. Oh, so you're saying Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire, so the original one. And that's not Insomniac Spider-Man 2. That's your favorite one, Far Cry Lego, but Web of Shadows is your second one. Close second. Nice. Moodcap says the combat is my favorite in any Spider-Man game. Far Cry Lego says the combat is brilliant. Moodcap says they don't make it like they used to. Yeah, now they're kind of just copying Arkham Asylum, right? And then Far Cry Lego responds, yep, which is a dang shame. Luckily, we get a ton of games in our backlog to play. Yes, I agree with that. That's why we're playing Red Dead Redemption in the background of all this. Imagine if she played Jack 2, says Moodcap. Oh yeah, I mean, the accessibility features on all those games would just make her explode. Moodcap. And then Far Cry Lego responds, now imagine if she played Battletoads. Oh, I mean, I think she is a fan of older games. That's the thing. But she has positioned herself in this position of accessibility within the industry. And as a woman video game developer, which she is, you're putting yourself in the box, but at the same time, that's what is expected of you. And I'm not making any excuses for her. I'm saying this as a criticism of the industry and what it has become, and part of that is because it has allowed so many women to really take charge. And do I think that no women should work in the game industry? No, of course not. But I do think that clearly the more feminine, adding more women in any space is really going to change that industry. And the way, just look at how marketing companies or like marketing departments approach just marketing itself. They gear a lot of stuff towards women because they realize that women are huge in terms of buying power in the US and really all across the world. And I think it's also the fact that they have a lot of these, not just products, yes, but in the sense that they're franchises. In the context that we're talking about, they have them and they just want to do whatever they want with them, and they want to make them more female centric or female oriented because they already have the male audience and they expect them to stay. And they don't realize that they just want to grow, but they don't realize the fact that they are losing more people than they are attracting. And you can see that with so many examples, like Star Wars. That's like the biggest one, right? Which we're not going to talk about the Acolyte today. We're going to move that till next week. Let's do 2 episodes, because today we were going to do episode 6, right? That's what we were kind of throwing around. But you know what? Let's push that till next week. I have some stuff for Wednesday already prepared, which is awesome. I just got to kind of organize that on my stuff and on my OBS timeline and everything. And so Wednesday is going to be that, and then Saturday is going to be Acolyte episode 6 and 7, which is just going to be cherry top. 2 episodes of the Acolyte. That's 2 episodes before the 2 last episodes, if you don't count, of course, the season finale, hopefully the series finale. But yeah, so Alanah is a female video game developer, and yeah, she is an accessibility consultant in Santa Monica. That should tell you already that, all right, this is going to be a little skewed, and there's nothing wrong with being biased. Again, I'm biased against this sort of stuff, and that's why we're here to kind of like clash these ideas. Whose ideas are going to win out in the end? You know, we're not actually fighting here, but we're clearly trying to see whose ideas will win out in the end, or who's at least making better arguments. And of course, that's not always about that, because clearly one side has more of a hold of the industry. But I think it starts with having these conversations. And so yeah, this is going to be like a good point of like clashing these ideas. And since she is doing a sequel to her original video, then I think that's only going to give us more of a reason to to kind of take that as a challenge on ourselves. And there's really a lot more to be said here, because what she does here in this video is just, I mean, I haven't watched the whole thing, but the fact that she doubles down on a lot of her takes is within itself egregious. Like without a doubt, it's egregious. And not to make this any longer than it needs to, but she works at Santa Monica as an accessibility consultant, and she's a writer for Insomniac, I believe. I don't know if she worked on the Spider-Man video games, but I think she has worked on, potentially, right? This is me just kind of throwing this around, but maybe you guys can search it up. But and I'm not like, of course, this is out there already, right? We know she works at Insomniac as a writer, so I do think that she probably worked on Ratchet and Clank, which, by the way, those games have become just soulless. Ever since the 2016 reboot, those games have become soulless. So yeah, let's get back to the video. I think you guys are saying some stuff about Jak 2 or GoldenEye on the N64, how that was just barbaric overkill. That'd be barbaric overkill for her. And yeah, all right, good. And I see that you've sent me a video in the DMs. Good.
But it's a thing that I care a lot about and know a lot about, more than most people, though there are certainly people who like full-time do accessibility in the space who would know way more than I do. But earlier in the week, I made a video that I called Elden Ring is Too Hard, in quotations. And majority of that video, I think it's like the first 8 minutes, I'm just basically talking about the negative reviews that Elden Ring has gotten for being too hard and saying that I disagree with them. Majority of that video is me saying, no, I think that you should get good. Like, I did literally say get good in it. The second part of that video, I wanted to talk about something that I'm just going to give with more detail now. About accessibility design, and why when people talk about being against a game being accessible, I think it's really silly, because accessibility is so much broader than just a guy in a wheelchair, which is what most people seem to think of when they think about accessible design. But when it actually comes to that design, it is much, much, much broader than that, and will definitely apply to you at some situation in your life. So in this video, I was talking about that. I was saying when people ask for...
All right, so yeah, she did say that, and we did go over that, how the metrics in which she was using to characterize her stance, which is that, oh, these things will apply to you too. It's there's a lot of faulty logic in that, right? There's a lot of faulty logic. So we also kind of went over that, and let's see what she responds. Let's see how she responds to, because we also went over the comments. Remember, guys, a lot of people were against everything that she was saying, and let's see how she responds to that backlash, since she is clearly on the defensive here.
Accessibility in games, they aren't asking for an easy mode, because they also just want to experience the hard game. They're not trying to get it to just be easier. And I was saying, accessibility design is so much bigger than people think it is.
Right. And we responded to that by saying, no, it is actually about making it easier. If you look at the effects of accessibility design, if you look at it from a perspective of like, okay, let's implement these and let's see in the long run what this does to video games. And we've been able to see that over time, accessibility design features, emphasis on video game design features have greatly been a detriment to just video games, and that they have really watered down the experience. And we kind of brought up an example of The Last of Us, how you can play on the hardest difficulty, but you can lower the settings on all the enemies to the point where they're just stupid NPCs who don't even react when they see you right in front of you. And I'm of course talking about The Last of Us Part 2 and not Part 1, although I'd guess they'd implement those into Part 1 as well now that they had the remake.
An example I used, and to be clear, I wasn't even advocating for this. I didn't say that I think it should be there.
Hey,
It was
Hoske.
just an example. An example I gave where I... Let me just show you the clip first. Let me show you the full
Oh,
clip. And people
good.
are asking for accessibility are not actually asking for an easy mode. That
They are.
isn't the intent. There are also multiple kinds of disabilities, especially where gaming is concerned. There are long-term disabilities, there are situational disabilities, there are temporary disabilities. It counts as a disability where a video game like Elden Ring is concerned if you have a kid. You have a 2-year-old, you're trying to play Elden Ring, you can't pause. That is a situational disability that you have, where the game not having the option for you to be able
There
to
we
pause,
go.
for example, is a hindrance for your particular disability, a situational disability. You may need to pause to stop your kid from putting a fork into a socket. So I basically explained 3 pillars of disability as it pertains to design. I did not invent this term. This term has been around for a long time. There are variations.
Okay, so still doesn't matter. You should not be using that sort of phrasing. Disability, kids are considered a disability. It doesn't matter if it's situational. And this is what I'm gonna say. Imagine if I said women are a situational disability because my wife nags me. She would consider that to be sexist and insensitive, offensive, and that's what she would do if I said women are a situational disability. Why? Because I've taken the term that's really dehumanizing and I've applied it to a person. So I'm dehumanizing the person. I am rendering them to a disability just by using the words disability. And it is a problem. So again, you going off on this tangent that Microsoft created this term not even 10 years ago, but it's like, who cares? Could have been 10 years ago, it could have been 100 years ago. It doesn't matter. The term has been introduced. The term itself is inappropriate when using it to describe people in general. People, stop dehumanizing people. Stop equating them, especially when we're talking about video games, or since this originated from the tech industry. When we're talking about technology, I think the last thing we need is to remove the attention away from humans. Like, we're talking about AI. Oh, AI is so evil and it's taking away people's jobs. And then there she is saying that humans can be a situational disability because they get in the way of you using devices. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. And I think the hypocrisy is getting lost on you, Alanah. And I think you need to do better for that. And also, let's take a look at Microsoft, who fired so many people not long ago, right? Like, how has it become that we are looking at Microsoft and now using them as this barometer of good judgment and saying, yeah, they know what they're talking about when it comes to treating people and referring to people in a certain manner, when they're the ones who just offed a bunch of them? You guys don't have a job anymore, right? So it's what are you doing, right? And so that's what she kind of got into here.
Of the term, and it's multiple facets of design. This is used in web design, it is used in app design, it is used in software design, and it is used in game design or development. Design or development, either really works. As it turns out, it's actually even broader than that. I've learned this week from people contacting me about it that situational disability is also considered in like commercial buildings. Apparently, it's not even just app development. It is much bigger than that. And there are 3 pillars of design. There is permanent, which is the thing that I think most people think of when they think of the word disabled. Person who has one arm, somebody who is blind. Let me pull this up, literally just give you a direct example. This is from Microsoft Design Toolkit, and I'm sourcing them because they are the company that most of you will know the name of or be familiar with, but you can find examples of this all over the place in this space. So we have permanent on this side, which is, for example, someone has a permanent disability, someone with one arm, someone who is blind, someone who is deaf, or someone who is non-verbal. Then there are temporary disabilities, which is like if you broke your arm, you broke your wrist, you have an ear infection. Then there are situational disabilities. This is example that's used here as new parent, a driver who is distracted, a bartender. I can explain the bartender one because people are confused about that as well, and a heavy accent. People are also reacting to the heavy accent one. So let me explain what the situational disabilities mean here.
So no,
Maybe an app
the argument is over. You don't even have to explain anything else. It's already done. It's like, no, okay, you can have this situational disability thing, but do not apply it to humans. And then it's hilarious that she mentioned heavy accents. Like, what is that about? So let's see.
Understand your voice because you have a heavy accent. That is considered a situational disability. You are disabled. You are unable. You cannot proceed through whatever software or whatever task you are trying to complete because of something that is situational to you. And it is situational also to the context of that game. Like the situational here means having a heavy accent is not considered a disability in layman's terms. You would not be called disabled all over the world. None of these things are like, if you have a heavy accent, you're disabled. It's not that. It's just the situational disability in terms of design is that you are disabled from using the interface in the way that a user should be able to because of your situational disability.
But is it okay? So it's based on the situation that you're in. So it's like, it's not even about the fact that it's because when she said situational disability, it's always been framed in this, oh yeah, there's something happening in this very moment. So like if temporary would be like broken arm that eventually heals, then situational would be then like something that comes, that's a bit below that, which is not a broken arm that eventually heals, but something that just disappears right away. It just happens in the moment. So for her to say, yes, your accent is a situational disability, that's inconsistent with the flow of like how it comes down, right? It's like permanent, temporary, so it's like, and then situational, and it's like, yeah, your accent, I would consider that probably more of a permanent one, or sometimes even temporary, because it's unlikely that you're going to have, what is going on here? Whoa, 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 sir, you do not get to get away like that. You fool. I'm gonna kill, yeah, I killed him, good. Okay, that was just rude. I just walked all over him, nice. Yeah, it doesn't even follow like a logical decline, because your accent is something in between temporary, and if it is a problem, it's something that's in between temporary and permanent. Why? Because, well, some people have their accents for the rest of their lives, and they can't, for example, use, I don't know, Siri or Alexa, right? Because of their thick accents. But then at times it can be also temporary, because it will, maybe an accent will disappear over time. And we are now in this other location. There's a snake next to me, so let's make sure I'm far away from it. And we are in this location, just to give you like a rundown of what we're doing. And I think this is connected to a mission called Water and Honesty. So, and it's a strangers mission. So, strangers and Water and Honesty. You met a man named McAllister at a campsite at the road to Armadillo. He's looking to drill for water in the area, but the old man who lives in Pleasant's house won't cooperate. So this is where we are now, Pleasant's house. And so that's where the old man lives. Travel northwest of Armadillo and find a way to get the land deed from him for McAllister. So we're going to talk to this man, I assume. Of course. And let's see what he's going to say to us. All right. Let's pick up this flower, because why not? What do you guys think about this so far? Like, does that make sense? It's like, it doesn't follow a logical, a trickle-down effect, or however you want to call it. A lot of these takes are reasons why I'm getting stuff together so I can start doing video essays on games as a hobby moodcap, of course, do it. It's going to be incredible if you do that. I would love to watch those videos. I think you probably have a lot, even sometimes, more experience in a lot of these games than I have. The more people, the merrier. And it always helps that, I like to talk about this stuff. I like debating. I like having these conversations. And so I also come from a perspective that, hey, I like talking about this stuff and therefore I'm passionate about it. And so that also gives me like an advantage. But another advantage is really knowing this stuff yourself. Let's talk to this guy.
I didn't know anyone lived out here. Whoa!
All right, off to a bad
Now you
start.
can't rob the place now, can you? Now get!
Friendly old bastard, ain't you?
I don't need me no friends, friend.
We all need friends, old-timer. We die alone, but we live among men.
Huh. Beautiful.
You know, I was interested in moving out this way with my family. Would you be willing to sell me a parcel of land? We wouldn't even have to speak or nothing.
Land's too dry for farming. Bandits run all the cattle off. Why you want this land?
I guess I just like the scenery.
Well, I don't know. Maybe for $200 I could give you the deed to this land, find myself a place up in Blackwater. Although I never could stand the people down there. No, sir.
Pay for the deed or take it by force. Of course we're gonna pay. I have so much money.
Okay, I'll take it.
Here you go then, partner. Good luck out here.
And we did it. Return to McAllister's camp with the good news. So where is he? Oh, he's probably right out here. Right? That's probably him, right? That should be him, hopefully. No? Wrong guy?
Sorry, mister.
I suppose it's the wrong guy. Okay, so where is McAllister? It's nice that we got the house. Journal. Water and honesty. You paid Clyde for the deed to Pleasant's house. Return to McAllister and give him the good news. Where is he? Where is he though? Map. Let's check out the map, guys. Let's see what you sent me, Far Cry Lego. I'm gonna check what you sent me this time around. I don't know if we'll be able to get it. I guess like a Wednesday is going to be a good stream. Yeah, Wednesday is going to be a better stream for these sort of things, especially that we're getting done. So yeah, let's get to this video.
The bartender example
Oops, hold on.
here is referring to a really loud environment. So if you are somewhere loud, they could also use music festival, but they're just using someone who functionally regularly works in a certain environment. So if they're in a loud environment and they can't hear a particular thing on whatever app, whatever interface that they are trying to use, the accessible design would aim to alleviate that situational disability. It's not saying bartenders are disabled in the way that the public associates the term disabled. I feel like distracted driver is pretty obvious. The new parent one, the example that I used, which again is fairly commonly used, I didn't invent the term, it's been around for a really long time, is if you're a parent, you're trying to play a game like Elden Ring, and you are halfway through your boss fight, and your kid runs across the floor and does something dangerous, you have to drop the controller and go and get them. That would be considered a situational disability, in that situation you are unable to complete the task that you are trying to complete because of something that happened to you situationally. You have been disabled from completing the task. The way this pertains to accessibility isn't to say that all games, all apps, all processes need to alleviate all of these things. That's not the intent either. Like, it's just a way in which accessible design is much broader than people think it is, in the ways that it can help a lot more people than people think it can. And it's also definitely a reality in accessibility where it is basically impossible, I would argue, to fulfill every accessibility need on the planet. That is very, very, very difficult to do. There are so many of them. The situational ones are so numerous. But it's just a means of looking at design that would allow the people who are doing the accessibility design to think about it as broadly as possible, think of as many situations as possible in which somebody is disabled from completing the task. Somebody is unable to complete the task. Somebody is hindered from completing whatever task they are trying to, whatever function they are trying to complete in whatever software they are engaging with. I think the word disability is probably really common used in the tech space because we use disabled a lot. Like a function was disabled, this feature has been disabled, Bluetooth has been disabled, it is no longer able to work, not because it's been turned off or it doesn't exist, it has just been disabled. I think that's probably why it's widely used and not considered to be offensive when it comes to design. And there are also, I've definitely seen people say having kids isn't a disability is
Yeah, but you're talking about technology. Disabled, a microphone, disabled, a speaker. You're turning stuff off. You can't turn off a situational disability. You can't turn off a temporary disability. You cannot turn off a permanent disability. Well, maybe situational disability could be turned off at times, but sometimes situational disability, if you're gonna use the child example, you can't turn off your child. I'm sorry. Like again, you're trying to use these terms that are from tech and they in the more technical terms, but they don't work. They don't work. I don't think it's all coming together like you wanted to come together. And I think this video, that's what it really is. She doesn't really know like what was I gonna say? Hold on. Because I was starting to think about like where to there it is. There he's gonna okay, cool. That's where he's gonna be. Cool. So maybe we'll go to this next location since we're closer to it. Great. Let's choose this place. And so, what was I gonna say? I think I forgot because I got too fixated on this stuff. Yeah. Let's go back. Maybe I'll remember.
a function was disabled, this feature has been disabled, Bluetooth has been disabled, it is no longer able to work, not because it's been turned off or it doesn't exist, it has just been disabled. I think that's probably why it's widely used and not considered to be offensive when it comes to design. And there are also, I've definitely seen people say having kids isn't a disability, it's just a responsibility, go do something else. And that's totally valid. Yes, that can make you a shitty parent. The intention is not to allow parents to be shitty parents. The intention is to allow them to not be punished or have a negative consequence in your product because of something like that.
Okay, and can you use a different language? And I remember what I was gonna say. This entire video is just her kind of like, she dug herself into a hole, and now she's just trying to essentially dig herself into a deeper one. That's what it is. And again, referring to like what she just said, yeah, just that's not what people took issue with. Like, how can you be so obtuse, for lack of a better word?
Where possible. And like a very good example of, I think, people misunderstanding it as a design ethos and not a thing you have to do is, I've seen people say, oh, what, so I'm disabled if I can't pause in a multiplayer game when I need to? No one would ever argue to take away from the design of the game. So like, if that is the purpose of the game, is an online multiplayer experience where you are having interactions with people in real time, and that is the core of the game, no one is going to argue that the game fundamentals should ever change. That's not what people are asking for. No one's going to say you need to have a pause menu in an online game. Like, that obviously is functionally impossible. It is just about thinking about the most accessible options for the thing that you are making without changing design principles. You would never change design principles.
We know.
You would still want your core game to function exactly as is. The Last of Us Part 2, again,
we
I think
know,
is the
lady.
most accessible game ever made.
Lady.
They clearly created exactly what they intended to create and then added all the accessibility features to make it an extremely accessible game. And the purpose of sheets like this and information like this, again, is not to say that, like, your game's not going to be... no one is going to be furious if it doesn't hit every pillar. It's just that there are a lot of pillars. A lot of this comes, of course, from people who actually care about gamers who have disabilities. I am one of those. It started in a very selfish way. I mentioned it in the video, but I have tendonitis in both my wrists. This means that I can't rapidly button mash. I've had that for like
and that's
maybe 10
on
years
you
now. And so I have trouble playing any game that just requires, like, if you have a QTE, I will always change to press and hold in the accessibility menu rather than tapping, because I will eventually, like, my wrist will lock up and I won't be able to do it. That's how I got into it.
No, I just have a problem with the design of like QTEs, you know. It's like, I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of QTEs from a design perspective because it really is just button mashing. But at the same time, it's like, that's the challenge, is to button mash, and it can be funny and hilarious when you're doing it with Mario Party, right? It's when it's those type of games where it's kind of like ridiculous and you're supposed to use a controller in all these ridiculous ways. But if you have quick time events during an actual game, it's like an actual game. When you have a game like God of War, for example, that can be kind of like give you like a mixed experience. How do we get to this place? Hold on. Yeah, it's very weird. So I'm just, when it comes to quick time events themselves, I think maybe there's just a better way to design a game than just to have quick time events. Because, and I'm not even thinking of it in terms of, accessibility. It's just from a design perspective, it's kind of ridiculous. I'm the best shot around here. Nobody here, and I'll put my money on it. He wants to challenge me. Sure, I'll defeat him. Let's get those birds. Ah, come on. Ah. Not good, not good. Oh, it's too far away. There we go. It's too far away. There we go. We got him. Nice.
And technically, that is considered a permanent disability. I do not call myself disabled because I have that. Like, in general terms, I'm not going to say I'm disabled, but I've actually had people who most people would identify as disabled in the accessibility space criticize me for that. Like, I've had criticism that is basically, Alanah, you are disabled, and by being afraid to use that word, you are preventing other people from realizing that they also have disabilities. That's a whole thing. But technically, that is considered a permanent disability in so far as it is permanent, it's not going away, and I have trouble playing video games, and so I need accessibility features. That's how I got involved in the space. Now, as I was saying, a lot of this obviously comes from people who have disabilities, who care about disabilities, who actually genuinely care. But I'm also sure that a lot of this comes from the app development and the web development, where they just want to make sure that you will never turn off the thing. Part of it is surely corporations being very time hungry. We call it the time wars here on this channel, or I've spoken many times about right now being in an era where corporations just want as much of your time as possible. So I don't doubt that some of this, when it comes to higher ups, is also coming from the time wars, where,
The time hose. A woman at the Armadillo Sheriff's Office said her son went missing in the hills by Hanging Rock. Go and search for him.
the corporation wants to make sure that you don't have a situational disability that prevents you from engaging with their software, that makes their software frustrating, that makes you want to put down their software in any capacity. It is definitely mostly people who care, in my experience. I don't think I've ever met any of those people, but I don't doubt that the term probably came from web development or app development, where they were just trying to make sure that you wouldn't have some situation that would disable you from completing
wrong.
the task on their website that they want you to stay on. Now, if people are upset or offended by the term disability or disabled here, I don't think you're ever wrong to be upset by a word or offended by a word. If that's how you feel, then that is how you feel. This has been this way for a long time. It is used in the space all the time. It is used by permanently, visibly disabled people on a regular basis in the accessibility space. But language changes according to societal...
Wait, it said that we completed the mission. Does it mean that we have to go back to the woman and tell her that the kid is dead? It's inactive, so I guess we can't talk to her now. Interesting. Alright, so next thing we gotta do is go to the nearest, gotta get wild feverfew for flowers for a lady. However, I think we already have enough of those. How much of those do we need? Yeah, we have enough of those, so we don't need to go there. And lastly, we need to go to North Lakes, near Pacific Union Railroad camp, to get beaver fur for Daedalus and his son. So let's go there. And I think it's going to be... Dang. Flowers for a lady, we got him, see? Funny man. Alright, alright. And this is where the beavers will be, I think. This is where we're going to find them if we zoom in, I think. Alright, cool. Spotty 3 quick time events fails are so bloody funny. They are hilarious. Moodcap says Spider-Man 3 has the best quick time events. And then Far Cry Lego says I'm gonna die, dies from by exploding. Yeah, those are pretty funny. Maybe we'll watch them. Oh no, Far Cry Lego, are you trying to brain rot us here? With the whole TikTok trend? Let's see, hold on. Moodcap says, a lot of these takes are, okay, I read that one. Far Cry Lego, I'm going to be doing reviews and takes on all kinds of things in E-Termination? What is E-Termination? Once I got everything ready, I know how to pause a multiplayer game. Just say English or Spanish. Okay. Good one, Far Cry Lego. And that is how you make everyone stop moving. So that is a skill issue. Exactly. And then, yeah, let's get into it.
Preferences all the time. So if people were to, just be learning about this term this week, which it seems like is the case for a lot of people,
Yes,
and
it
are
is.
really offended by the use of
And
disabled.
you should realize that maybe you were living in your own bubble, because I know a lot of designers who have never used that term, have never referred to it. Maybe they do use that term, but they have never personally though you've completed part of this encounter, the story is not over. Check back at the sheriff's office in the future. Interesting game. But yeah, the fact that I haven't heard anyone say it, and maybe somebody knows about it, but they didn't feel like it was appropriate to mention it to me, because why would they? That's valid, but I have never heard of it, and I guarantee you that if I were to ask a lot of people, they wouldn't know. A lot of designers. You know what? In fact, I'm gonna ask them. I'm gonna ask them if they've ever heard of situational disability, and I'm gonna find out if they're actually aware of it. How about that? I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna come back in the week and then come back and tell you. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. And then yeah, that's pretty much it.
Or disability in this context, I'm not against changing it. I'm an accessibility consultant, but I'm not on the kind of boards where they make these terms or make these docs.
You don't have to.
Specifically,
A
with
lot of terms in video games are kind of made up by the players themselves, and they just catch on, and some companies decide to use them, and they end up sticking around. It all depends on just whether the phrase becomes popular or not. And it's not, you can do a lot of, you can make a difference, Alanah, by not using these terms. Believe me.
Disability side, not the situational disability side. But if you're upset about the term, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong to feel that way. If it made you uncomfortable to hear that kids are considered a situational disability. Again, it's not that kids are, though. It's that the context of which the child appears and does something disables you from completing a task. Whatever. Semantics. But if you would like to change the term, and if people would be more comfortable...
It's semantics, but the semantics that, it reaches into a broader problem.
Well, if when I speak about this again in the future, which I'm sure I will, I have many times before, that I call it a situational impairment instead, I'm totally fine to do that. It's just a term. Disabled exists in this context because of the industry from which it was born, but I'm not against it being changed.
The fact that you feel like it can't be changed by you and that you're still going to be using it, that's a problem. That's a problem. Because you find it, it shouldn't be used. Period. Blank. So I think you should still be criticized for it, and you should expect to be criticized for just ignoring the fact that people will take an issue with it. And I think there were some interesting comments underneath this video. Usually it was, this time around, it was more supportive. But there were still interesting comments regardless. She did kind of she did add a comment later of hers, of course she did. And she says, I changed my titles. Oh, right. So what happened later is that she changed her title. Let's bring her back up here.
Allow me to explain. Hello.
So there she is. So she changed the video of this. She changed the title of this video to "They're trying to cancel me for situational disabilities and accessibility design." So first it was, let me explain, ... in parentheses, situational disabilities and accessibility. And then she went on to say they're trying to cancel me for situational disabilities and accessibility design. And so you kind of think that she's turning herself into a victim here. And I think you'd be fair to think that. And I thought that too when I saw that title change. And this is what she wrote in that comment. I change my titles a lot in the first few days, but I'm gonna stick with this one. People will comment, nobody's canceling you, but that just means you haven't seen it. They've reached out to my employer to tell them to fire me, to sponsors to drop me, to tell them to fire me, to sponsors to drop me, and are in this comment section saying crap like, at Duelist Magician, I hope you get canceled for your crappy takes, etc. So a person, I'm going to inject myself here, a person saying, I hope you get canceled, kind of not really canceling somebody, but she did mention that there were people who were trying to contact her employers and all that stuff. Okay, so she's got some case here, right? So let's see what else she says. To be super clear, I don't give a crap about this. Nobody's actually going to cancel me. It means nothing, but people are absolutely trying. So somebody reached out to her employer, and of course that's kind of like, ooh, that is pretty shady and pretty bad, and people shouldn't be doing that. But at the same time, I really don't like the approach she's taken here. Like, you can acknowledge the fact that somebody's trying to cancel you, but the fact that you went on to change the title itself in response to the criticisms that you've received, and now you're making it look like people who disagreed with you are all trying to cancel you. So that's what you're trying to do. And I think there were some interesting comments here about how that challenged her view on this thing, and how indeed the points you're making about disability, the language you've used is wrong, regardless if you put situational in front of disability. And yeah, and I think there was a great comment about that, and she responded saying, I said a fact. So that's how she starts off. I said a fact. Again, you said something that is considered a fact by you and the people you work with, but the fact that it's not even heard of that much, it's already telling. It's telling that you're living in the bubble and you're kind of out of touch with reality here, and that maybe you should stop doing that. So she says, I said a fact. It's not about how we view children in society. It's about how broad accessibility is in terms of design. And she goes on, but I'm going to inject myself here. Yes, it is about how we view children in society. Just like, saying white lives matter, some people would consider that to be offensive and counterproductive, because it takes away from the narratives and the discussions that are being had in terms of like the Black communities, right? And so if I say all lives matter in response to Black lives matter, that's just an example I'm bringing up. It's of course a different scenario, but it is the same in that you have a phrase and then somebody else is using that charged phrase, and it has an additional meaning. It brings an additional meaning into the conversation. And so that's the exact same thing. Same thing here. Imagine if I said, maybe not called it a situational disability. What if I called it a situational, I don't even know what to call it. It's just the word again, you're dehumanizing somebody. It's insensitive. It's that within itself carries implications. The fact that you are placing, and of course when it comes to design, of course you're going to be prioritizing design, but when you're going to be bringing children into it and you're going to be calling them disabilities, you shouldn't be putting in that scenario the video game or the design at the center of your language. Like, you can still have design be at the center of what it is that you're talking about, but you don't have to make it about children being a disability. You don't have to use that sort of language, right? So she's saying it's not about how we view children in society. It really is, because it's just what's happened. People care more about playing video games than they care about starting families, and that maybe should be indicative of why these terms have kind of taken shape. And I know it's kind of like hilarious because I'm playing a video game right now, right? But it doesn't change the fact that I'm aware of this fact, so everyone else should be too. Uh, so she goes on. Uh, it's not about how we view children in society. It's about how broad accessibility is in terms of design. It has nothing to do with society, and nobody's asking society to see things that way. I'm kind of highlighting society because she put that in quotations. Nobody's asking society to see things that way, but it is what you're doing when you're referring to them as disability. It is what you're implying. I firmly believe people reacting that way, like you are responding to that comment, are being extremely sensitive, almost on purpose. So she's suggesting bad faith. But again, I'm not against changing the term if you truly find it that offensive. I can't guarantee any of the industries that have used it for 10 plus years will change it, but I can when I talk about it. There are so many industries that don't use it, and it's originated in the West, and yes, it can be changed, just like so many other terms have been changed. And even sports team names have been changed to accommodate people's feelings about it. Sports teams that have existed for decades and decades. So again, not really, I don't see how that comes together. And then there were some people who came to her defense saying disability is not a bad word. And to that person I say, if disability is, like, saying disability is not a bad word, that is really bad faith. Because so if disability is not a bad word, are you going to say that disability is a good word? No, disability is a word used to describe something. But I'll tell you what disability the word is. It is a word used to describe something unfortunate. There is no when it comes to like humans, and not talking about design, although even disability, when it comes to, can I say, like, disabling something is not a disability, right? Or like this device has a disability to, no, you say this device can be turned off. You don't say this device has the ability to get turned off or turned on. It's just not how people say that stuff. But if you want to get like technical about it, you could go that way. But again, like, the opposite doesn't really work. This device has the inability to be turned. So yeah, it's just gets like weird. It's really hard to kind of like think of that because it just doesn't fit. So when it comes to humans, disability is mostly referring to humans, and that is again accessibility. It's funny how you use that term, but it's kind of more about accessible to whom? To humans. And so you've got that going for yourself. Accessible to humans. All right, so disability, that also refers to humans. And I know I'm kind of walking you guys through this like it's weird, but clearly she doesn't understand that. And so it's about humans, and disability to humans is something negative. It is the word itself isn't bad, but it describes something that is unfortunate, or that it is at least an inconvenience or a difficulty. It's like you can't look at a person who has a serious disability and say, oh yeah, that's a good thing. It's just, it sucks, right? It's something that they have to battle every day, and we want them to have an easier time battling it, right? But like, again, let's not say that disability is not a bad word. And then she hearted, I bring up this argument because she hearted that comment. Disability is not a bad word. Well, it's not a good word. So again, it's like a very bad faith argument. And that's the end of this video. I think there were some other ones as well, other comments saying, they said something to the extent of, I'm not sure if I remember actually, hold on. Was it something about disability? Like, it's just a lot of people pretending like, oh, people are misrepresenting you by ignoring situational disability. No, we heard you say situational, and we're making a case for that.
You got the deed?
Yep. Here it is.
I hear about it. All right. Good of you to put your own money up for the deed.
So this is for the old man's house.
There you go. There's a little something extra in there for you. Always best when these transactions go smoothly.
Particularly when you can make more money out of it.
Nice.
Good luck with the property, McAllister.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. I'm satisfied with this. I gotta say, I really appreciate what this game does with its game design. And how, I took somebody's horse and they reacted, and I didn't even, like, pay attention to the fact that I stole somebody's horse by accident. I wanted to use mine. So I just got on like, one of the horses that was there, and somebody reacted. And, this stuff is really, just impressive for 2010. Like, the sort of reaction that these NPCs have. Just really impressive. Let's go to the funny man guy. And we're gonna go here. And then we're gonna go here to find the beavers for fur. So yes, we're taking care of like the smaller missions right now. And yeah, pretty fun to kind of like take care of those strangers missions. So that was that video. It died again. Hold on. Let's read your comments before we move on to the other one. It died again, says Far Cry Lego. What died? Hold on. Oh, Woodcap says, this is the same thing the crazy one from G4 did. They both said something stupid and tried to paint the critics as unreasonable strawmen. Yes, that's a good character. That is a good way to characterize them. And by the way, Woodcap, if you need any like sort of tips on how like get started with the media criticism and all that stuff on YouTube, by all means ask me. Even on streams, I would love to kind of like get into all that stuff and just help out people kind of get started. And Frank Lego says, and that is the reason it died again. Yes, G4, the crazy lady, of course, we all know her. And all right, Frosk was her name. Let's get to the video about James Gunn, which is by a guy named
There won't be any major
I kind of forgot, but Steven in the last stream mentioned him, and one of my other followers, my other viewers who said, hey, this is the guy, remember how Steven mentioned this guy on your stream? This is him. This is the guy. And so you should check him out. And there we are. We're going to be watching his video, and this is, I believe, Steven criticized this guy, and so for a reason, and his name is Enterprises, right? And he is in favor of the James Gunn suit because the title is "The Hate on the New Superman Suit is Stupid." Pretty kind of like a very out there statement to make, and so it's kind of offensive if you think about it, because it's like, dude, I'm not stupid. I'm just being reasonable here. So let's actually take what he says here and let's take it down. Let's see you guys defend. Let's see the defenders. You guys know my take on it. The outfit is not like awful. It's not even. Is it bad? Like, I'm kind of torn if it's bad. I do think it's at least. It's not good. It's not good. I think it is the worst Superman outfit you've seen in live action. So that's my take. You guys know it. I'm not gonna repeat myself. There's too many lines. The fabric is too thick. So let's get to this video. Let's see his criticisms. And they better not be just, oh, Snyder fans just hating on it. Because I'm not a Snyder fan. I've criticized Zack Snyder to a greater extent than a lot of these people. So, and I've also been fair to Zack. And we even had a stream dedicated to criticizing Zack Snyder, right? Remember that? So, that happened. I'm not a Zack Snyder shill. I do like Henry as Superman. I also criticize his performance too, believe it or not. So again, I've made arguments in favor of him as well. So you can't accuse me of this stuff that it's not going to work on me. It's not, okay? So let's see how if this guy actually knows what he's talking about, if he's going to be making fair assessments, fair arguments, and let's see.
Spoilers or plot leaks, as I'm mostly going by what people have already seen with the set photos that have been going around, but I can understand wanting to be surprised by what hasn't been officially revealed by Gunn & Company themselves, so don't whine and complain about anything that's about to be shown. As expected, whenever there's a new look at the costume for an upcoming superhero film, there's some controversy surrounding it. I remember the same thing happening when the Batman set photos first came out, and the look of the suit was very divisive amongst the fandom. I can understand.
And I still think it's kind of the Batman suit is kind of a mixed bag. I like the practicality of it, but I think like around the cowl area, his neck area, it starts to get kind of weird. It's like it's got that ascending collar piece, or like the back of it. It's not a fan of it. It's odd. Not sure why it's there. And yeah, the cowl, not a fan of the cowl for sure. Everything else about that suit, I guess I like. I think I like the bottom half.
Both sides to a certain extent when it comes to the new Superman suit. It's fine if
Oof,
you don't like
look at it. It's just so baggy. I mean, the way he just kind of like zoomed in on it, I think it kind of speaks for itself. And those trunks are just way too big. Like also way too baggy too. It looks like he's got like air inside of his trunks pumped into him like a flat tire. That's what it looks like. Mudcap, thanks for the offer. The stream on my end is slow because of my crappy internet. You can always, I think if you like put me at 480p, 480p is not like the worst quality. I gotta tell you guys, it's not that bad. So it's like if you're maybe on 1080, 480 is going to be okay. How about on Twitch? How's Hosuke doing? How is your stream, by the way? Do you have any like lagging or any interruptions? Mudcap also says Superman shouldn't be wearing a super diaper. Yes. Does it look like a diaper? I don't know. It's just too big. So I think I have called it a bit of a diaper because it really it looks like I called it a loaded diaper, okay? That's what I called it. Not just a diaper, a loaded one.
it, or if you don't like it at all. Personally, I could have done without the lines near the shoulder /
Okay.
area. Not a big fan of a color.
So why is it stupid?
It's one thing if you're kind of hesitant towards the film and the DCU, and even if you like the DCEU.
Okay, so why are we
but if you're one of
stupid?
those Snyder cult goons who hates on everything not made by Zack Snyder, go ahead and click off the video, gang. This ain't made for you. And this Superman is garbage because it's not Henry Cavill. I hope this movie flops because they should have brought back Cavill, not my Superman. Hashtag restore the Snyderverse.
I'd also be pretty good if you could explain why people who have those criticisms, why they're irrational to have those feelings, right? I think it'd be better to have that kind of thrown out there as well, because then you come off yourself as a gooner. That's what you come off as. Run away, run away. Meet the rancher near the canyon. There he is. Oh, dang, he's been captured, eh? He's gonna help me. Should I? Maybe I should just get rid of these guys first. Because the guy's gonna get killed.
Comic accuracy.
We have the high ground.
Superhero suits can work well or go horribly wrong depending on how it's executed and what materials are used. Many people take issue with the use of trunks, for example, and how it differs from what we've
No,
been
the trunks
getting
are
in
not the
past
problem.
handful of years with Superman depictions. But you're not gonna see me sit here for however many minutes trashing the suit.
Because I like it. Hell, I love it.
I will never understand the hate.
What do you like about it?
It's literally an iconic element.
So
of the
trunks, okay, we like those because they're an iconic element of the super outfit. Okay. I can see that. Okay, what else? Is it just the trunks? Because we've had other outfits with the trunks and they were much better. So there's got to be something else here. Bring it.
Superman design. I don't know why James Gunn went with this as the first reveal of the Superman suit. It really doesn't do the suit much favors since it's battle damage. The colors.
We went over it on my page. Oop.
A little bit of the local color, you know. But these gentlemen have seen to it that I've enjoyed the true hospitality of the frontier. Hey, cigar?
Let's get out of here.
Right. Go on. Don't worry about me.
So let's go help this guy. Right.
More diluted, which was one of my initial concerns going into the first look at the design. The
And
photos
it still could be diluted. I think Henry Cavill's BVS outfit was pretty bright in comparison to Man of Steel. Like, obviously it was a bigger improvement, but they still managed to kind of water down the colors, dilute them, and bring them down. What is this guy doing?
tell a completely different story with very bright and vibrant colors, so that's already a plus 10 points in the grade book. The complaints on the padding or lack thereof
What
on
is
the
he
suit
doing?
is always funny to me, since people can't see the in-depth muscle definition in every fiber of the suit. A lot of other superhero suits look the way they do because of muscle padding, so when it's not seen here, they think it's too big. I can understand the complaints about it looking
What?
a little loose in some areas,
Hold on.
but we haven't really gotten a good look at it when it looks like on camera, like on film. This is pretty
Is he
common
scared of me now?
practice in numerous set photos for superhero suits seen in live action. I'm always down for some good back shots of superhero suits with capes,
Hold on, pause.
especially with how Superman and Mr. Terrific are looking side by side in broad daylight. The cape is honestly spot on. Even if you hate the suit, I can't trust you if you have any issues with the cape. It's got the emblem on the back and everything. Mr. Terrific to me is probably the most dripped out member out of the whole bunch. He too clean with that jacket. Always down for some good back shots of superhero suits with capes,
Hold on, pause.
especially with how Superman and Mr. Terrific are looking side by side in broad daylight. The cape is honestly spot on. Even if you hate the suit, I can't trust you if you have any issues with the cape. It's got the emblem on the back and everything.
I like the cape, but the emblem is awful. Should not be there.
Mr. Terrific to me is probably the most dripped out member out of the whole bunch. He too clean with that jacket on. Boy, I would drop money if they sold that jacket as merchandise for the film. Like, shut up and take my money right now. Some people here and there claim that he's giving off CW Arrowverse vibes with the suit, and I'm not gonna lie, this complaint is kinda stupid.
No, not just him. Every member of every member kind of has those vibes. Have you seen Guy Gardner? Have you seen Hawkgirl? And so yeah, when you put them next to him, they're wearing kind of the same suits. The Superman outfit for the CW, I think, was arguably even better than this one that this Superman is wearing. So why is it stupid?
It's giving CW. He just looks a little
yes.
too cheap.
What the fuck are you talking about, man?
Genuinely, what else were you expecting? This is verbatim what he looks like in the comics. It's a one-to-one translation. If you have a problem with how he looks in the comics, alright, I guess that's one thing, but like, dog, he literally wears a leather-like jacket. You wanted some plated armor or something? Some of you may or may not be familiar with
Okay,
this,
so
but
I
my
guess
thing-
like yeah, sure, maybe like for him I can see why that would be weird. But at the same time, did we see people call him CW looking? I think it was mostly it was mostly hold on. It was mostly about like Guy Gardner and also mostly about Hawkgirl and Superman. And I think most people like the Mr. Terrific outfit, honestly. I don't see maybe like the materials, the fabric they used on it looks kind of, but again, it's like I think it's because it looks just similar to the other ones. So I don't think anyone has a problem with the Mr. Terrific suit itself.
named Grace Randolph, an active participant in the unfortunate scooping game where people try to get the latest scoop or leak on something. Known reporter, film critic, that type of thing. To those of you who aren't familiar with her, this woman is an idiot. You are never gonna believe the stupidity I stumbled upon with her takes on Mr. Terrific's design and the nonsense that lies on the internet.
All right, so as for the hair, it's a little retro. I agree with Sam. It's a little 70s, a little 60s. It's a little black power, a little political in my opinion. I don't know if I would have injected that into the character. I think I would have just focused on making the character sexy and cool as possible.
Oh shit. You're stupid.
So niggas can't have a natural fro without it being a political statement? What the hell are you talking about?
Well, it looks bad. Okay, I've seen fros, and this one ain't it. Look at him. Look at him. Look at me. He looks off. It looks like the fro is way oversized, and it looks like a wig more than it actually suits him. So I don't know if it's political or black power, but it definitely is not good looking. So do not pick from the lowest hanging fruits. Come on, man.
You say I don't expect this Caucasian female to be an expert on black hair anatomy, but because of that, I suggest you keep quiet on how our hair is supposed to look on film. Alright? It's okay to have your gripes on something, but it's a whole nother thing to just spit out straight buffoonery just because you don't like it. If you see a potential scoop or leak about an upcoming comic book film, like who may or may not be set to appear in said film, but the
He's referencing the diss on Grace Randolph because James Gunn did tweet this once when she said that, you know, the Peacemaker views were kind of low, or that the show was unsuccessful, and James Gunn got upset by that because apparently he doesn't like when people say that his stuff is unsuccessful, even though he is right in that, she is right in that, you know, the numbers never came in, and Peacemaker probably, like, was it popular? Probably not. It got a second season. It was HBO Max's highest viewed streaming show apparently, but those numbers are very low, and that's probably changed over time. And I think maybe like it was even more distinct. It was maybe like DC's superhero shows. So it's like, okay, is it even for the entire streaming service? Nimbus is here. What's up, man? And then dang, I didn't even get a notification for the stream. Sadness. That's insane. I see higher powers at YouTube are trying to take me down. Again, we went over Alanah's video, accessibility video, so that we did that one, and then now we're kind of going on to the costume video. So only problem I have is the Superman outfit. Oh, interesting, Far Cry Lego. So you don't even mind the Hawkgirl and Guy Gardner outfits? Because I think those are even worse than the Superman one. Mudcap, I've seen people defend the logo by saying it's inspired by Kingdom Come, as if being a reference automatically makes this thing good. Yes, just because it's Kingdom Come doesn't mean that he should be using that logo for his universe starting Superman movie, which haven't even gotten a Superman movie for like over a decade now. 11 years. No standalone Superman movie for 11 years. So the fact that you're going to be starting out, and this is going to be a lot of people's first time watching a Superman movie, believe it or not, and this is what they're going to be seeing, that sort of S logo. No, you just want to be different. And I made this comment too on my Instagram page that but you know, you guys, when know what I realized? I realized that I am running an account where I'm just basically documenting James Gunn mentality and his psychological state, and like his entire human being and who he is. That's essentially that. Like, that's not what my page is about, right? But whenever I talk about James Gunn, I really get into his head, and that's because I really find him to be not a fascinating person, but an easily readable person. Like, he telegraphs himself and exposes himself, and I can like pick out and all the things that he does, and it's like, wow, this guy is just telling everything about himself. And these are comments that I made like over a year ago about him, and everything like so far has yet to be kind of like be proven wrong. And yeah, it's just how it is. You know, just a lot of Grant Morrison projects with the Authority and all that stuff, and Tom King on his team of writers, and also guiding him on this. You know, you can like pick out on certain aspects of what his work is and what it is and what it's going to be by his statements that he's made. And you just get like a very insightful description of who James Gunn is and what he's going to do with these properties, and like what his status is as a comic book fan. Like he was never a DC Comics fan when he was a kid. That is pretty obvious. He went to a psychologist in the 70s as a kid, and then the psychologist told his dad to kind of, maybe, hey, if you're interested in the things that your son is interested, maybe that's going to help him. And so that's the only connection he has to comic books. And it's like, did you even read the comic books? Was that something just kind of like that you had on the side? And he dropped out of school, I believe, so he was like a misfit. And it's like, yeah, it's odd behavior, and it's like it's stayed consistent with him, like that sort of fatherless, motherless behavior. Although he claims to have loved his father, which is great, awesome, but it's still just odd in terms of like what your relationship was with him and like who you were as a kid. Like, I can't imagine a kid who, like, if it were like 1940s and I'd have to pick a director, I'd say pick John Ford to direct a Superman movie, because that guy, he's got it. He knows what he's doing in terms of like filmmaking, and also in terms of like understanding just simple old school American values. And I actually commented under this video something that is to that extent, so we'll get into that too. But first, let's see what this kid wants from us. It's hilarious because I think he wanted to meet us to shoot these guys, and I think I already shot a bunch of them, so that's hilarious. Okay, he just kind of got into it. No cutscene, no dialogue. Good. So yeah, we already killed some of these people, which is hilarious. So yeah, James Gunn does not like Grace Randolph, she's a fan of his projects, by the way. So he's just being mean, but he really doesn't like her.
Sources from Grace Randolph.
And you know what? She has some outrageous takes. Let's be clear on that. Nimbus. The symbol is indeed stupid. Oh yeah, and what was I gonna say? It's revealed to me, like, just the other day I realized that there was a comic book called and I've known about this comic book for like ever since it was announced. Before it even came out, I knew it was Superman and the Authority, and the symbol they used for that story was the Kingdom Come symbol. And I realized, wait, hold on, because I saw the cover recently, and I just realized, oh right, Grant Morrison wrote that comic book. And then it just clicked. I realized, oh wait, another Grant Morrison. So is this how he landed on this symbol? He saw another Grant Morrison comic book and he's like, yes, this is the symbol I want to go with. So he didn't even think of it in terms of Alex Ross, Kingdom Come. No, he thought of it as Superman and the Authority. That's the logo I'm going to use. And then somebody else pointed out to him probably, hey, that's the Kingdom Come logo. And he's like, what? Oh yeah, sure, I guess that's the logo I went with. Really, I didn't go with it because I read a Grant Morrison comic book. He definitely chose it because of the Grant Morrison Superman and the Authority comic book, which was awful, mind yourself, just egregiously awful. Let's just put that out there.
Randolph, just know
It's 90% bullshit.
with how Superman and Mr. Terrific turned out, I was hella intrigued on how Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, and
Here we go.
Hawkgirl will end up looking. It's going to be interesting to see how they'll incorporate some of the vibrancy of their comic suits and convey that onto the big screen. I know for a fact they're going to click big time with the...
Okay.
No, sir.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. Hawkgirl and Guy Gardner looking a little iffy. Was expecting something else for Hawkgirl that was a lot less leathery and more green for Green Lantern, but I think there might be a reason for this.
Yes, there is a reason. It's because they're working for Maxwell Lord, and which is just goes against everything that Guy Gardner is supposed to be about. And Hawkgirl wearing that sort of outfit is also kind of weird, but whatever. And it's just odd that the superheroes are working for a supervillain, although probably story-related reasons. But still, Guy Gardner working in a team like this one goes against his character. Nimbus says, round of applause for them not giving Mr. Terrific the Killmonger cut, at least. Yes, we gotta give him at least props for that. I guess he got his normal haircut and not the stupid haircut not seen in the outfit for them, says Frog Religo. And Nimbus says, don't worry guys, Superman Legacy will feature creature commandos. Wait, is that true, Nimbus? Is that actually going to happen? Because if that is true, was that a report? Because if that is true, then oh boy, it's not good. And you know what, I just realized he went after like Grace Randolph for being a scooper, right? But what about these publications like Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Deadline? They're the ones who are also reporting on this stuff. And you're not going to go after them just because they don't go by the scooping word to describe themselves. Like, okay. Oh yeah, I tried to block it out because of how bad it looks, says Farker. Like, oh, the outfit was so bad I tried to forget it. Which outfit?
A lot of people have pointed out how Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner, and Hawkgirl all have a very similar aesthetic going on, with the three of them wearing jackets of some kind. On top of that, they all have the same symbol on their chest as if they're representing some team or organization. That same logo was seen on some other set photos of the Metropolis set, representing
Lord's
a company
Tech,
called
yes.
Lord Tech, which is owned by none other than Maxwell Lord, who has already been cast in the DCU and will be played by Sean Gunn. It seems likely that Superman will be the odd one out, being a hero that isn't tied to a corporate synergy, as the vibrancy of his costume stands out in comparison to the other heroes, and you can see kids and other people gravitate towards Superman over the other heroes that represent whatever Maxwell Lord is.
See, you were on the team of, I'm not gonna get into these leaks, but you're kind of getting into these leaks.
I'd be shocked if these were the...
Although to his defense, he did say that it's like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna talk about anything that hasn't been shown here.
Suits they'd be wearing going into other projects in the DCU. Maxwell Lord has often been a villain in many DC stories, but the version I think James Gunn will focus on is during the time when he was heavily associated with Justice League International. Maxwell Lord was a very rich businessman who played a large role in the newly formed version of the Justice League, functioning as sort of a United Nations sanctioned international peacekeeping force, now operating as an independent city-state. Booster Gold was recruited by Maxwell Lord, who advocated for Booster's membership in the Justice League at the time. The League essentially gained international status, hence the name Justice League International. They would establish several embassies in a bunch of different countries with their newfound status. A couple of members of Justice League International, like Booster Gold and Guy Gardner, are already confirmed in the DCU, so it's not too far-fetched to see them going in that direction, or at least taking some inspiration from that run. It lines up with James Gunn's own statements on Maxwell.
How come it doesn't work?
Saying how it's kind of reductionist to pin him as an outright villain, giving light to the Justice League International comic series by Keith Giffen and J.M.D. Mateus. It may be too early to tell, but I've got a feeling we're about to get the best Lois Lane in a live-action film in a hot minute. Not to rag on the DCE.
I mean, I guess like Amy Adams did not blow anyone out of the water.
But their Clark and Lois Lane had no chemistry together. No sauce with them or the Daily Planet whatsoever. One of my issues was the lack of the Daily Planet cast, but it seems we've gotten some good looks on some of the other Planet side characters. It's nice to be reassured that Jimmy Olsen will in fact not be a CIA operative who gets killed off unceremoniously in the beginning of the Superman movie. They're cooking with the look of Lois Lane and how they're incorporating purple in her fit, and she dripped out for it. I think seeing the life of the Daily Planet is kind of a part of the charm of the Superman mythos, and seeing the differences in how Clark Kent interacts with those around him as Clark versus him as Superman. And with the Daily Planet gossip columnist Cat Grant being added to the film, and with the actress who was cast as that character, I think I see what you're cooking, James Gunn.
What is this guy
My
doing?
boy Clark Kent was getting cooked on the TL with that hairdo. I know Steve Lombard's gonna have a field day when it comes to bullying, bro. I actually like the difference in the hair when he's Superman versus him as Clark, to actually delve into the significance of dual identity. Like, I feel people...
You don't have to choose this haircut. You don't have to choose broccoli hair. You don't have to do it. Again, just look at the 78 film.
Somewhat buy into how
Or 79.
others can't picture Clark and Superman
78?
as the same person. More
79.
of a messy hair thing going on and not holding back on how curly it is. Also, it's not a wig, that's just David Cornsweat's natural hair. Dorky Clark Kent for the win, man. Can't please everybody with how the character's gonna look. I've seen...
Yes, you can. You can just do the original intention.
About the idea of Robert Pattinson's Batman and David Cornsweat's Superman being the world's finest of the DCU, finding a way to integrate that Batman into James Gunn's universe, considering both versions of Batman and Superman are in their earlier years as crime fighters. Many point out the stark contrast in their visual aesthetic, which could work really well on screen, and the fan art of them together is cool to look at if we're being real. Even though people claim it's a missed opportunity, they're not together, y'all have got to let it go, bruh. It's not gonna happen. Literally since the initial announcement of the first 10 projects in James Gunn's DCU slate, we've been knowing that the Batman of his universe will be played by an actor who isn't Ben Affleck or Robert Pattinson. And the reason for this is not because Gunn hates the Batman or something. It's literally because Matt Reeves wished for his Batman to be completely separate and not hindered by having to be connected to a wider DC universe with other superpowered individuals. Let Matt Reeves cook with his own separate kitchen and utensils with a more grounded take on the character, and we get a more fantastical comic booky Batman in the DCU with experience. This also grants the opportunity for some fan demands I've seen for a more comic accurate bat suit. Some like the idea of white eyes and maybe even trunks on the suit. To be honest, it doesn't seem that far-fetched considering the direction they went with on the Superman outfit and the inspiration seen on that design. James Gunn, give me the classic blue and gray in the DCU and my life is yours. It also begs the question on how Wonder Woman will look in this universe.
What is that position, bro?
Continue the trend of the battle skirt or incorporate the classic swimsuit-like aesthetic, or perhaps something more akin to the New 52 could work.
The fetish outfit.
But either way, somebody's gonna be pissed off. Hey, look,
the sex mistress.
That some people are going a little crazy over some set photos of elements from the film that we haven't even had a good look at on camera yet. For all we know, there could be some context for the Hawk Girl and Guy Gardner suits.
We know there's context, but it still doesn't change the fact that this context is the problem too. There is no context, and that's going to excuse the story beat, is there? Like, again, if it's to make Guy Gardner and Hawkgirl and Mr. Terrific look bad, why even go there? And again, this is a Superman movie. Why are you putting all these characters into it? Too many red flags. Too many red flags. At least one of them is bound to mean something.
Although I am curious if the Lantern Ring constructs the suits for each core member, or if they choose their own physical suits, I don't know. Listen, Jimmy's got a plan. Alright, let him cook. The food is still being baked in the oven. We're looking at it when it's not even well done.
Looks stupid.
That's
now.
okay.
It looks
We can still criticize it. We can still criticize it though.
stupid now, but you have to wait.
But in all seriousness, I get it. Definitely wasn't expecting this much of a...
Yeah, showing Patty Jenkins saying that, really not going... That's like the opposite of what you were trying to accomplish, isn't it?
Look for some other characters, but I guess some more in-depth criticism gotta be reserved for the release of the film. If Batman ends up looking like a goofy goober on film in the DCU, then I'll go cry in a corner. And if the Superman movie is booty cheeks, then I'll eat a can of broccoli on camera or something. I'm just hoping
eat his hair,
because it's been way
Clark
too
Kent's
long
hair.
since we've gotten a good Superman adaptation on film.
And that was it. And I did leave a comment underneath this video too. And it was this. James Gunn doesn't understand classic Superman. He only appropriates the iconography as Grant Morrison, a mentally ill man, has done and transforms it to fit a ultra-humanist framework with little to no consideration for Superman's deeply rooted nature of American conservatism and old-school Americana. I'm not a fan of the suit. It's clearly the worst Superman costume in live action because it tries to deviate so much from the base Superman costume by adding so many lines and odd, thick fabric that is used in MCU costumes. That said, I understand it is the story that will carry this thing forward, and James Gunn is simply not the man for the job. I rest my case. Not the outfits that we need to have. And that's what it is. Alright, so for this next part of the stream, since, originally I wanted to do Alanah second, right? I wanted to still get into like the accessibility thing and really dive into like where did this even come from. And so let's take a look at Polygon's take on the accessibility thing.
Have you ever realized how disability accessibility features and
Okay, so this is already off to a rocky start because this woman sounds super annoying. But it's a short video, so that's good. Yeah, Polygon is sure something. But look, at least the screen looks pleasing to the eye. Alright, lady from Polygon. Let's dive into this.
You ever realized how disability accessibility features in games can be quality of life features for everyone? Things like changing the size of subtitles.
So, this is where we kind of accused Alanah, and not just Alanah, but accessibility features as a whole. Remember how we talked about it and we said it's too vague. It is purposefully trying to be vague and just very overall with its language, and its accessibility is getting conflated specifically with difficulty and customization in video games, and now she is conflating it with quality of life features. How so?
Titles, turning audiovisual cues on or off, remapping. You ever realized how disability accessibility features in games can be quality of life features for everyone? Things like changing the size of subtitles, turning audiovisual cues on or off.
Okay, so the text, right? Making font size bigger. That shouldn't really be accessibility. That should be, again, customization. Audio cues, that's odd. I guess that is for like the hard of hearing. Sure, we can have that, but is that really going to... I don't think it's... Yeah, that can be accessibility for sure. But I don't see that as like a problem that hinders the game itself.
Remapping controls to different buttons. These are all features that...
Remapping controls, that's customizability. See how they're conflating stuff? See how they're conflating stuff on purpose? It's ridiculous.
Able-bodied gamers can benefit from, but they may also be the difference between whether a disabled gamer can even play the game or not. Even difficulty options can be considered an accessibility feature.
And this touches on something that we kind of talked about. Are different difficulties kind of like a different take on accessibility features? I would say that they kind of are. I think it's better for, again, video games are an art form, and video game developers should approach it from a perspective of, we have a vision to tell, and it's intended to be played in this fashion, and that's what it should be. There should be no, like the fact that there are different difficulties tells you that perhaps the game developers didn't know how to balance the game, right? Or maybe they did, but then they realized, okay, well, this is not approachable for everyone. And what that tells us as players is that you have no faith in your core game. And that really puts a bad look on the fact that, video games are an art form that should be taken legitimately. And the fact that you have every single time you create like a different version of your game, and I don't mean that you fix potential bugs and all that stuff. No, that's called realignment. That's you trying to realign your vision so that, because obviously video games are more technical than something else. You're just trying to realign certain things. You're trying to fix problems that were not intended to have been there since the beginning. So that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is like creating different versions, different difficulties, that every time you do that, you take away, you know, video games and become less of an art form because you have different versions, and it becomes a problem then. All right. And by the way, let me tell you something about Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption is a video game that has one set difficulty. Some of you may have probably seen the hardcore difficulty, but again, that is only for the GOTY edition, and that is just something that's additional. So when the game came out, and still for the longest time, the normal difficulty was always the intended version of playing the game. The hardcore was only in the GOTY edition, and now I assume it's also part of like the PlayStation 4 edition. But in the Switch version, but it's there for people who probably have already played the game and just wanted that extra challenge or wanted to experience it with more difficulty. But the game was always intended to be played on normal.
Some people are incapable of hitting certain combos or jumps at the speed some games require.
That's an indicator that you should stop playing the game.
Because of a physical disability, or you're just not very good at games.
Yes.
However, with adjustable difficulty levels or special settings like
Jeez.
no fall damage or even invincibility.
So this is assist mode. This is assist mode from Celeste. I don't know if you guys have played Celeste, but it is an interesting game. It has an assist mode, and I do kind of prefer that over just the accessibility features being within the menu itself in the game. So I do prefer that over I do prefer an assist mode, a separate mode that makes it clear that it is different and not the intended experience, over just implementing accessibility features into the core game itself. Although from what I understand, you can kind of turn assist mode on, and again, still not a good look that you can turn off dying from, you can have invincibility. Like, what is the purpose of playing the game then? You're not playing the game at all. So again, by putting these options into the game, by giving you invincibility, where you're just literally walking through the game, you're not having the exact same experience as everyone else. Infinite stamina, like that air dashes, that goes against the core mechanics of the game that really make it or break it. For Celeste, and some of you might be thinking like, what is Celeste? You guys will see in a moment. But yeah, it's like, you guys can see how like even this is, at this point, is it really about disability, or is it just about people who don't know how to play games? I think it's the latter.
More games can become playable for more people. Yay! Lastly, by pointing out that accessibility features can be for everyone, I'm not saying that disabled people should only be helped if it benefits abled people. Rather, I think we should all realize that the line between able and disabled is more gray than we think.
It's on the spectrum, we get it. Okay, so clearly she's just making the same argument, which is that, oh no, the intention isn't to make it easier. But again, if you look at the effects of what is going to happen, it is going to make games easier, and just it's going to rob video games of that art. It's going to rob it of its artistic merit. Let's give this granny a bunch of flowers. Or this old man.
Thank you. Not many around these parts that help an old man with such a task. Thanks again, stranger. Come on in, have some tea with me and Annabelle. I'm sure she'd love the company.
All right, maybe just for a minute.
It's my other half, lovely Annabelle.
Oh.
Much obliged.
It's Nora Freeze.
This man helped me find these lovely flowers, Annabelle. Not half as lovely as you.
Jeez.
No, you don't look a day over 30, ma'am.
Wait, the fine air and the good living up here in New Austin that keeps us so young and full of vigor. Annabelle was mentioning she wants to go up to Blackwater, ride one of those newfangled motor cars. Huh? No bumpy old horse carriage for my angel.
That's a good idea, Billy. I should get going.
Well, you haven't had your tea. And Annabelle baked her special blackbird pie.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Billy. I must have forgot. I've got an appointment with Planet Earth. Nice to meet you, ma'am.
What? What kind of excuse is that?
Stop by anytime. Oh, we play bridge on Thursdays.
Appointments with Planet Earth? What is this guy on about? I mean, I get it. It's an excuse. But it doesn't really work. Can we fish? That guy was insane. And I think we completed a lot of the missions. Now we just gotta go to find the beavers, which should be next to this location. Even though they don't appear on this map. Let's see. I do have the physical map with me that you guys can't see. And on this physical map that I got from the game box, the games box, it shows where the beavers are, which is pretty cool. And it should be right around the river bend, or I guess the lake bend. So it should be somewhere around here. So let's go here. What? What is this? Okay. We can't go on this side just yet? Okay. I guess so, in that case. I guess we haven't been here yet, have we? Interesting. But is there a way to cross this? Yes. And then if we want to go here, is it blocked or something? Weird. What do you guys think? Should we go here and just check if we can kind of like unlock this area? Or I'm kind of curious. We're not that far away, so maybe we should check it out. Let's see what's happening there. And if not, we can always try to go from this side. Interesting. He's calling the guy crazy, like on different planet. Like on a different planet. Haha. Yeah, that's pretty good now that you say that. Pretty good, pretty good. So, I wanted to talk about this accessibility thing. Where did it come from? Where did it originate from? Whoops. And I think you kind of started seeing, at least on the YouTube sphere, you started seeing it around like 2017, where it started really to gain traction from one YouTube channel. Do you guys know which YouTube channel I might be talking about here? The YouTube channel in question is... I'll just tell you guys. It's Game Maker's Toolkit.
There are two things about...
So he is a known YouTuber who made YouTube videos on just video games and game design specifically. And I thought he had a very interesting YouTube channel that really talked about some really cool stuff about game design. And a lot of game designers even watch it. But then he totally lost me on the accessibility thing. So I kind of wanted to go over like... I really do believe that he defined a lot of the accessibility standards within the industry. And I don't know if this was maybe him learning it from others, or maybe if it was the game developers learning it from him. But I think there was a lot of going back and forth, a lot of synergy between video game developers and this YouTube channel. And so he made a lot of videos on this, mind yourself. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to go through not all of the videos, but just some of them. And I think there's like 3 videos from him. And if they get kind of needless and if they go over the same points, we're just gonna ignore them, right? But let's just see where this language developed and like we can see what it turned into. So let's see where it started out, okay? I really think it's really going to be an interesting perspective, and it's really going to give us a better understanding of how we even got here. So and that's something you guys can also apply to your own critiques, like Moodcap, who is starting his or will be planning to do it. Like that's always a good way to go about it. Try to find like the origin of stuff and try to understand like where did it come from. That's kind of like my approach to things. Do some research, see if there's more to it, and like what the arguments were for it. So let's see. Ironically enough, he's using Dark Souls, another FromSoft game. you guys will see this. They are really going after a lot of the Japanese video game studios. Isn't that interesting? They're always going after them for this sort of stuff. Crazy. So yeah, let's go. Let's see. Check this location out while we listen to him, and let's see what he's gonna say.
There are two things about games that I firmly believe. One, designers should be able to impose a singular vision on the player if they...
Great. So he agrees with me. Designers should be able to impose a singular vision on the player if they so wish. I mean, yeah, I agree with that. The ideal should be that they should be able to impose a singular vision on the player. And if they so wish, fine. If that's an option, sure. If you want to do that, it's your prerogative. But it's not mine. But yeah, I agree with this statement. So how do we go from this? Isn't that interesting? We went from this to what we have now, which is like, oh, every game should have accessibility options. Elden Ring should have it. Dark Souls should have it. Isn't that interesting? Like, I really find it interesting. So let's see if he kind of changes his tune over the years.
So wish. So Dark Souls only needs one difficulty mode. Dead Rising can put the entire game on a restrictive time limit. And weapons can randomly jam in a game I shouldn't talk about anymore. Decisions like these might be controversial, but if they're an integral part of the experience that the developer is trying to create, then the player shouldn't feel like they're entitled.
Great. By the way, do you guys know the game he was referencing with the jamming of the weapon? I don't. It looked like Far Cry to me. I'll go back and maybe you guys can tell me, because you guys have a better... This is the game. I have no idea what this is. But yeah.
Weapons can randomly
Far Cry 2, there you go. There you go.
Jam in a game I shouldn't talk about anymore.
Why not?
Decisions like these might be controversial, but if they're an integral part of the experience that the developer is trying to create, then the player shouldn't feel like they're entitled to be able to mess with this stuff through options, modes, and toggles. Because that would screw with the developer's intentions and could end up ruining the game in the long run. Those decisions were made for a reason, after all. Okay, 2. Players should be able to play games however they want. Whether the player has a disability, or they're just not very good at the game, or they want to focus on the story, or perhaps they find one specific part of the game unenjoyable, like action segments.
I would say however they can, however they want. Like if I'm playing Red Dead Redemption, then I'd be saying, yeah, I want to play dance. I want to dance in this game. Oops, wrong way. I want to be able to fly in this game. That's what I want out of it. Then no, I should not be able to fly in the Red Dead Redemption game. Right? It's just something we can all agree on probably. So players should be able to enjoy the game however they can. Ooh, that's a big mama. Uh-oh. Oh, no, calm down. What happened? I'm sorry, little buddy. How did he not go down? There we go. That is crazy. What a bore. And there's a second one coming up. Or no, something else. Okay.
Or timers, and it's ruining their experience with the rest of the game. I think they should be able to skip boss fights, turn off the time mechanics, and lower the difficulty to whatever.
What? He just totally did a 180. That's not part of the developer's vision. What if my vision is for you to beat this boss? You should be able to skip it. What? I just can't believe how much of a 180 he did. Like, he's not even aware of it. Are these people for real? Are these people for real? I guess not. I mean, wow. That's just crazy. Okay, let's see what this location is, guys. Let's see where we are. And if we can cross to the other side. Dixon Crossings. And it looks like the game, this area is not available yet. Not good, not good. Alright. At least we know that we can't go to this area just yet. Cool. But isn't that insane? Like, how can you be so out of touch with reality. Like, are you aware of what you just said, sir? Are you aware?
Desire. I don't care. It doesn't affect my enjoyment. Do what you want.
No, it changes the vision, bro.
Yeah, they're not exactly the most compatible opinions, and it means I've struggled with conversations like, should Dark Souls have an easy mode? I'm in favour of giving people more ways to play if they need them, but I also worry that these options will lead to confusion about what is the proper way to play, and inadvertently lead people away from having the best possible experience that the designers have tried to put forward. But here's what I've come to realise, and this is something I briefly touched on in that Dark Souls video but have come to better understand through games that have been released in the intervening months. I think it comes down to communication. I don't care how people play these games as long as they understand what they're playing. Understanding that there is this proper, intended way to play a game that the designers have carefully created, and other alternative modes if people really want to play that way. Now,
Okay,
my childhood,
so he's saying accessibility options in the game are a no-go, but having a different mode, that clearly makes it clear that this is the intended way of playing the game. That's fine for him. And okay, I can kind of subscribe to that, although, again, it's a slippery slope, I think.
This came in the form of cheat codes. If you wanted to just mess around in Duke Nukem 3D without worrying about dying, you'd simply type in DN Cornholio to turn on invincibility and give yourself an infinite jetpack. There was no misunderstanding about what was happening here. This was cheating, and it was definitely not the right way to play.
Perfect way of putting it. If you play on a assist mode, you are cheating. If you play this in this sort of manner, you are cheating. Oh, nice. How come we only have one desert sage? What? We had a lot more of these. Something's off.
A stupid 8-year-old kid, God Mode let me experience loads of first-person shooters for myself. Same goes for user-made mods like the one that removes turn timers from XCOM 2 or the Wuss Mode mod for horror games.
4 desert sages. Oh wait, we have 15 red sages. Okay, sorry. Yeah, we're good. Good. Oh.
Game Soma, which stops enemies from being able to see you. It's up to you if you install these things, and as they're third-party modifications, you're under no illusions that you're messing with the intentions of the dev. But cheat codes don't seem to exist anymore, and were always hidden away in magazines and schoolyard rumours. And mods are largely exclusive to PC gamers and exist outside of the game itself. But in the last few years, we're seeing a growing trend of games where this sort of stuff appears inside the games. Developers are introducing things that fundamentally change the experience and might completely go against the whole point of the game, but are being very careful to communicate their intentions for who should use these options and why. I first saw this crop up in Darkest Dungeon, a game that is purposefully punishing and sometimes completely unfair. Now, this game was released in early access, meaning that people could buy the game on Steam while it was...
Very beloved game. What do you guys think of the Darkest Dungeon? I heard it's great, so it's interesting that he brings it up in terms of accessibility.
In an unfinished state, and watch as the developers tweak the balance and introduced new features. Not every feature was well received though, most notably the corpse system, where dead enemies stick around for a few turns or until you destroy their body. Something that can be pretty frustrating when you can't target an enemy because a corpse is in the way. Now, developer Red Hook Studios thought it was the right move for the game, but some vocal fans disagreed, and in the end, the studio decided to make corpses optional. In a blog post on the matter, the developers said, "We have been reluctant to add difficulty-related options until now because focusing on our intended version of the game has been our #1 priority, and our experiments and changes during early access have all been in support of iterating on that. But it would be foolish for us to not consider the fact that the Darkest Dungeon community is now big enough to include diverse groups, some of which would like to play the game differently than we might have envisioned." But what really stuck out to me is how they implemented those options. Because to turn off corpses and make other gameplay changes, like making it so retreating from combat never fails, you have to go into the options and turn on a specific mode called Darkest Dungeon Config. And when opening this menu, you'll see a pop-up that specifically states, "Gameplay settings as intended to be played. turning this off allows you to toggle the gameplay features below. So by burying these options in a
What
menu
the heck?
and
It's like in
explaining to the
some
player
kind
that
of
this will change
Fast and Furious movie. Did you guys see that? That was insane. Okay, we gotta leave. Everyone is... Oh no! Horse. Everyone is gone crazy. Let's just leave. Things have gotten out of hand real quick. Ooh, that was crazy, guys. Did you guys see that? It's beautiful. Far Cry Lego, I like the game. I still need to get the sequel. The sequel's yet to come out.
Change the intended experience. Darkest Dungeon communicates to the player that this isn't the game as it's meant to be played.
Okay.
But ultimately,
that's okay.
It's your call.
It's not
to
like
me,
the most
this
ideal
feels
thing.
Very different to turning on a game and having the absolute first thing you see be a bunch of different modes that can fundamentally change how the game plays. That's not a bad thing necessarily, but it can be
Subnautica,
weird.
hold on. Subnautica has different modes too?
This feels very different to turning on a game and having the absolute first...
Survival, freedom. Oh, but those are just different modes that you can have, right? Creative, that's like different modes. It's got nothing to do... I mean, it is with different experiences, but it's just different modes that have nothing to do with difficulty. So it's like presenting you different... Not different versions, but different... Like, instead of putting it all in one game, in one mode, you're just creating different modes, right? It's not exactly the same, so... But I guess, I get he's making kind of a point about, like, disorienting the player with too many different modes.
Thing you see be a bunch of different modes that can fundamentally change how the game plays.
But it's not the same.
That's not a bad thing necessarily, but it can be weird. Like how Fire Emblem
Not really.
gives you the option to turn off one of the key aspects of the franchise, permadeath, before you've even started playing. In comparison,
That is odd.
Here's how Tom Francis dealt with permadeath in his game, Heat Signature. So initially he was reluctant to get rid of it, saying, I'm not going to completely remove permadeath. It would be
What
a totally
happened?
different game and one that generates...
I didn't even look at the screen, but what happened to us? Again, another... What happened? What? Did you guys see what happened? Because I didn't. Did something attack us or something? Was it a snake? I have no idea what happened, guys.
Less interesting stories overall. But then said, maybe that's not the right question. It's not, would the game be better without permadeath? It's, can we help the players who hate it? And so he made it optional in the game's first major update. But, like Darkest Dungeon,
Wait,
he
what?
buried it in the options and explained, would the game be get rid of it, saying, I'm not going to completely remove permadeath. It would be a totally different game and one that generates less interesting stories overall. But then said, maybe that's not the right question. It's not, would the game be better without permadeath? It's, can we help the players who hate it? And so he made it optional in the game's first major
Why would you
update.
Why would you want to help the players who hate your game? Oh, but they don't hate my game. They just hate this one aspect of the game. But yeah, that's your game. So already the mentality, even though you're going about it in the right way, I would say it's like, okay, I'm going to tell you what my intended experience is. You're still playing into these falsehoods.
But, like Darkest Dungeon, he buried it in the options and explained its purpose with a clear label that reads, we don't recommend doing this unless permadeath is really spoiling the game for you. It leads to less interesting stories and less variety. Tom says it was important to explain that this is not a normal option because I don't want players to feel like they're being asked to design how the game should work. Oh, I like that. That's a good way to put it. I should steal that. Another interesting solution came from Soma developer Frictional, who were inspired by that Wuss Mode mod, which makes the player invisible to enemies, and turned it into an official part of the game. The in-game mode has slightly different enemy behaviors. They notice you but they don't hurt you, and it's now called Safe Mode. Language is important, after all. More on that in a bit.
Safe mode, hold on.
Thomas Grips.
I also heard stuff about like Soma being a great game. Haven't played it, but I probably should because I've heard so much good stuff about it.
And it's now called
Monsters are still creepy but can kill you. You don't need to worry about stealth as you play. Yeah, it's pretty rough.
In-game mode has another interesting solution came from Soma developer Frictional, who were inspired by that Wuss mode mod, which makes the player invisible to enemies, and turned it into an official part of the game. The in-game mode has slightly different enemy behaviors. They notice you but they don't hurt you, and it's now called
So it already has a normal mode, right? So hold on, let me see.
In-game mode has slightly different enemy behaviors. They notice you but they don't hurt you, and it's now called
Normal monsters doesn't have another save, so it's between two.
Language is important, after all.
Normal save.
More on that in a bit. Frictional's Thomas Grip says he actually...
Yeah, it's like putting that in the... Like, how are you going to put something like that into your game? That's ridiculous.
Considered releasing this sort of mode at launch but chose not to, telling PC Gamer, "We skipped it because we wanted to focus on delivering a certain kind of experience, and we wanted to have a clear message on how exactly the game was supposed to work. Specifically, the underwater world of Soma needed to feel oppressive and scary as you sneak past nightmare robots."
So why would you add a mode that would just undermine all of that design and intention?
Monsters who want to eat your face for breakfast. But the popularity of Wuss mode was proof that some people really wanted to experience Soma's impactful storyline.
Again, stuff like this, it's like, okay, I guess I'll just sell out and just give you like a watered down experience.
Just couldn't deal with the stressful game mechanics, and this gave Frictional the push to make the mode official. The interesting part here though is the timing. Safe mode was added 2 years after the launch of the game. Thomas says releasing safe mode this late after release feels better because we've had time to ponder various aspects of the game's design to make it clear what kind of experience it is. If we did this at the time, it might have muddied the waters. So releasing options like this as a follow-up instead of at
It's
launch
still going to muddy the waters for people who are starting out.
can help explain that they're not supposed to be part of the main experience. If you don't want to wait, another option might be releasing an easy mode as free downloadable content, which happened with a game called Butcher. Once again, creating a disconnect from the main game helps communicate intentions. But the game that really spurred me on to make this video, due to the care and consideration of its optional mode, was Celeste. This is a brilliant platforming game, full of charm and character, with top-notch controls and great level design. And it's also hard, like really hard, and you can make the game even harder with collectible strawberries and secret B-side and C-side levels. Challenge is the whole point of the game, both mechanically and narratively. But if you're finding the game too tough, there's this, Assist Mode. In here, you can completely alter the game, changing the speed.
So I've played Celeste and I've somewhat enjoyed it. I think the big problem with Celeste is that it was a game where it's like, the story mode, it's like so annoying to play a game as like this mentally ill character who struggles and has a phobia. And then there are these other characters that just reaffirm you. It's just annoying. And that was my biggest gripe with the game. And that really kind of tinted the experience for me. But other than that, like from a game design perspective, it was pretty... It had its moments, definitely very challenging at times. And so that's what really made it stick out to me.
Air dashes, making Madeline invincible,
That's
and so
insane.
on. One of the game's developers, Matt Thorson, told Waypoint, "From my perspective as the game's designer, Assist Mode breaks the game. I spent many hours fine-tuning the difficulty of Celeste, so it's easy for me to feel precious about my designs. But ultimately we want to empower the player and give them a good experience, and sometimes that means letting go." Now the mode was inspired by the conversation surrounding Cuphead, a brutally tough run-and-gun boss rush game inspired by rock-hard Mega Drive titles.
Cuphead was awesome. What happened to that game? That's pretty interesting. I didn't know they had a controversy too.
From the 90s. And Cuphead does offer help for newer players in a simple mode, but the execution is pretty poor. It pops up before every fight right next to normal mode and doesn't really explain what it does. The mode removes entire phases from boss battles, meaning you don't get to see all the amazing animations on
Good.
offer. And beating a boss
You should be robbed of that experience.
on simple mode doesn't actually count the fight.
Remember, only a regular battle will let you collect and a Dester's soul contract. Now scram. Good. So it basically blocks your progression. Good.
As a win, meaning you can't fight the final boss and see the game's ending if you don't finish every level on
Very
normal mode.
good.
It's not great, and Celeste's assist mode is different in just about every way. For one, you can play the entire game in assist mode if you want. Nothing is kept away, not even achievements, which I'm not entirely sure about, but hey, who cares about achievements anymore? 2, it's up to the player exactly how they change things. You're given very granular options. You can slow the game down by 10% if your reaction times
That's
aren't quite what they used to
ridiculous.
be, or you can skip entire chapters if they're not for you. 3, the name. At one point it was going to
Chapters?
be called cheat mode, but the devs thought that felt judgmental. They're Canadian.
Yeah, you should
But
have called
you
it
never
that.
know why someone wants to pick an easier setting, so calling it stupid idiot baby mode or something is a bit of a dick move. Instead, they went with assist mode, and shortly after picking the name, Super Mario Odyssey came out, which has a mode with the exact same name and made the Celeste team feel like they made the right decision.
Dang, I gotta tell you guys, Super Mario Odyssey on regular mode is some of the easiest thing you'll ever play. Like, it's just so, like, the game was just ruined by the fact that it had no difficulty whatsoever. And so the fact that they decided assist mode would kind of add to that, man, you guys should have made it like a hard mode, honestly. Not an assist mode, but that's the sort of beta that Nintendo made for themselves. And I think that's a problem with a lot of Nintendo games nowadays is that they're too easy most of the time. Most of their games are too easy, whereas you go back, a lot of them are actually somewhat difficult. Link to the Past, very difficult. And guess what? That's what makes it fun.
Assist mode in Mario, by the way, is pretty awesome too, because it let my 4-year-old nephew complete Odyssey all by himself. Anyway.
Why is your 4-year-old playing... Like, okay, fine, I guess you can play a video game as a 4-year-old, but... on assist mode? Come on.
To Celeste. 4. The game's developers explain the intentions of assist mode with great care and
Struggle,
attention
kid.
before they let you turn it on. Here's what they say. Assist mode allows you to modify the game's rules to reduce its difficulty. Celeste was designed to be a challenging but accessible game. We believe that its difficulty is essential to the experience. We recommend playing without assist mode your first time. However, we understand that every player is different. If Celeste is inaccessible to you due to its difficulty, we hope that assist mode will allow you to still enjoy it. This left me with no confusion about how Celeste works. Assist mode is not for me. It might as well not exist as far as I'm concerned, and I never used it when I played and finished the game. This isn't an easy mode that I might switch down to if the game's kicking my butt. It's an assist mode that's just there for those who really feel they need it. Now, some games are, of course, completely open about letting you change the game in any way you desire. That can be a developer's vision too, after all. But some games are just better served by a more strict vision for how the game should be experienced. But that doesn't mean we need to make those games inaccessible to certain people or completely rule out the option of letting people customize or turn off certain aspects of the game. It's just, to me, all about communication. To make sure you're not presenting options that go against your vision with the exact same weight as the ones you actually want people to use, but instead using language, placement, and timing to make sure everyone understands what these additional modes are all about. You're giving people options if they need them, but you're not asking them to design how the game should work. I just made that up. I'm very clever. So I do believe that game designers have a duty to protect players from themselves by not letting them turn off the more prickly mechanics. But I guess I also believe that if designers give players good information, like the creators of Celeste and Heat Signature did, then they should also trust that players will make the right decisions for how they want to play. That's where I'm at with this debate. Let me know what you think in the comments below.
Alright, so he went from this
to cheers for watching.
To 2019 or 2020, he made this video called How Accessible Were 2019's Biggest Games? And this was the video.
Around this time last year, I made a series of videos called Designing for Disability, where I looked at the options and design decisions that developers could employ to make their games more accessible to players living with disabilities. So I looked...
So this last video was like 2017, 2018. Now this is him in end of 2019, beginning of 2020.
At colorblind palettes, audio visualizers, customizable controls, and optional assist modes. It was fascinating to see the ways that games could be tweaked to be more approachable, but also sad to see when games drop the ball and shut certain players out. But now, 12 months on, I thought it was a good time to check back in and see how the industry was doing. So, over the last few weeks, I played 50 of the most noteworthy games that were released in 2019. From massive new blockbusters like Death Stranding and Ghost Recon Breakpoint, to indie titles like Overland and Untitled Goose Game. I wanted to see where they succeeded and where they struggled in terms of accessibility, and this is what I found out.
So he's really going to go over a lot of games, and he's going to crack down on each one.
The first huge game of 2019 was Capcom's terrifying remake of Resident Evil 2, which spooked a whole new generation of players with the aid of this bulky bloke in a bronies hat, Mr. X. You'll spend the majority of the game on the run from this unstoppable, unkillable nightmare, only able to predict his position by listening out for his clonking great foot.
Let's kind of go
the game
over
virtually
this.
Unplayable very early on for deaf and hard of hearing players, and a complete failure in accessibility. Other
Too
games
bad.
this year went some way to help convey sound effects to those who can't hear them. Far Cry New Dawn offers sound subtitles for things like gunfire and explosions with little arrows that point to the sound source.
That
And in
still
Gears
doesn't solve
5,
everything.
that iconic musical sting that symbolizes
Or
that all
the most
enemies
important
are dead
parts.
is subtitled as Music Settles. Plus, in that game, enemy bullet trails are, by default, shown as clearly visible yellow lines to help you see where shots are coming from. Another game worth mentioning is Apex Legends and its clever ping system. This lets you highlight
By the way,
areas...
designing for accessibility, every game now looks the same. That's what it does, is trying to make the game accessible, adding yellow paint everywhere and yellow objects to see if you can interact with them. It's become a meme at this point, and people are like laughing at it, but where do you think that came from? That came from accessible design. That's where it's from. Oh, I see. I tired out the horse. My bad, my bad. Calm down, horsey.
enemies and objects to teammates through both a subtitled voice line and a visual indicator, allowing players to communicate important info in a multiplayer game, but without audio. Of course, a really important feature for deaf and hard of hearing players is subtitles for spoken dialogue. And this year saw some really good examples with nice big fonts, speaker names, and high contrast backgrounds. Remedy's mind-melting shooter Control has very readable subtitles. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order
subtitles should
offers
be
massive great
in order.
subtitles if you want them. And Metro Exodus also employs black backgrounds and speaker names. Most of these let you customize these subtitles yourself through a menu of different options. Also this year, Ubisoft experimented with having subtitles on by default, and discovered that in Far Cry New Dawn, a whopping great 97% of players kept them on. Other games offer subtitles as an option before the game even begins. It's also of note that every game I played this year actually has subtitles, which shouldn't be noteworthy, but at the tail end of 2018, Activision released the Spyro Reignited trilogy without any subtitles at all in its major cutscenes. Thankfully,
Alright, let's skip this part.
blasphemous. And finally, there's the all-too-familiar too small subtitles. Crackdown 3 has teeny tiny text to read while punching up bad guys, and
Crackdown
The Surge
3.
2
Ooh,
has
that was an awful
microscopic
game.
subtitles. But subtitles aren't the only place where you'll find small text.
What Cap says, Mario Odyssey was a snooze fest. Thank you. I had the same criticism with Breath of the Wild. Oh no, its combat is very easy to break. Mr. X is very easy to avoid since he doesn't enter save rooms. I think the thing with, I think you're referring to Resident Evil 2, is that the sound, you can't hear the enemy coming, and for people who are hard of hearing, that is a problem. That's what he was talking about. But Breath of the Wild, I haven't played that game yet, but I mean, hopefully it's maybe more challenging in other areas, but man, like Nintendo has really dropped the ball in terms of difficulty, and it's a shame that it had to come to that. Like, why? Why did it have to come to that? Because they are more money driven, of course, and that's fine, sure. But like, that's the problem. That's also the problem too. Where's my horse? There he is. And is Red Dead Redemption an easy game so far? I mean, it is. But there's just so much more here.
Which brings us onto part 2.
Visual stuff.
Text size is the area where games most frequently fail in terms of accessibility. Not just in subtitles, but across.
Tears of the Kingdom solved my issues with the combat, but the exploration kind of lame since it uses Breath of the Wild's map. The video game developers who reuse the maps have gone out of control. Same with God of War Ragnarok and Marvel Spider-Man 2. Just incredibly lazy stuff. Even I provided a solution for Marvel Spider-Man 2 because people said, oh, it's still New York. What do you expect it to be? Well, you can add elements to the world that are really going to change it up. And I mean, like, you know, you exist in the Marvel universe. You can have Norman Osborn creating like new structures, and you can have like a more of a sci-fi approach to New York, and you can also do that with Tony Stark, right? He doesn't have to appear in a game, but you can have an excuse saying, oh, Tony Stark built these amazing structures that change the gameplay or how you move about the world, and then what you even see and encounter. Like, you can really go crazy and you can really take it somewhere. But notice that they didn't do that because they were just focused on rushing the game out. That's what it was. More revenue, more corporate driven approach. You need to put out this game in this amount of time, which is hilarious because games used to get sequels a year apart, and they used to be all interesting and different. And nowadays everything is the same, and it takes a couple of years to develop. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. With caps, I don't care how Marvel Spider-Man 2 had a $300 million budget when they had most of the map already made. Right. Exactly. It's like, what are you guys even doing with this money? And I guess it's maybe on voice actors and the story development, but at the same time, the original game then still should cost more because you still have that too. And I believe the story in the original was longer, right? The common critique I've received from about the sequel is that the story is too short, which I think the story for the first one was less than 20 hours, right? I think like 15 hours maybe. And then the sequel was what? I don't know. Let's see how long to beat.
Cross-user interfaces, in collectible documents, and on your heads-up display. So, the Outer Worlds continues to be a squint 'em up thanks to minute words all across its user interface. The text in Fire Emblem Three Houses is small on your TV, but minuscule on your Switch. And Death Stranding tries to look cool with its sleek UI, but it's a struggle to pass at a distance. The worst perp of 2019, though, is the tactical Baba Yaga simulator John Wick Hex.
Marvel Spider-Man. The main story took 17 hours to beat the first one. And then for the sequel, it is also 17 hours, so they're pretty much the same. When you look at the main plus extra, it is 25.5 hours. For the sequel, it is 23.5 hours, so 2 hours less. And for completionists, it is 35 hours, and then For completionists, for Marvel Spider-Man 2, it is 28 hours, so also 2 hours less. How long to beat that com is not reliable in terms of time. It took me way longer to 100% Marvel Spider-Man, so not always accurate, but it gives you some perspective. So it was less.
Which writes some critical information in text that's only 12 points big. Luckily, other games use a far more readable font size. In Outer Wilds, the rumours on the computer are nice and legible from most distances, and it's the same with the user interfaces in Kingdom Hearts 3 and the translation screens in Heaven's Vault. Other games offer the option to choose your own text size, such as the existential detective drama Disco Elysium and the gothic horror adventure Sunless Skies. Planet Zoo, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and Borderlands 3 let you scale the entire user interface, making both text and icons easier to see. And this isn't just important for accessibility, because as we move into a future where the same game can be streamed to your big TV or your tiny phone screen, scalable user interfaces are going to have to become the norm. Another area where some games have shined is in offering players the option to switch out special
but that's got nothing to do with disability.
Easy-to-read text. Untitled
Sometimes I even feel like, okay, this text is too small, I gotta change it. That's how I feel sometimes, and it has nothing to do with disability. It's just, and again, it goes back to like, oh, situational disability, temporary disability. No, I just have preferences. How about that? Maybe that's what we should call it, preference settings.
Basic font. And Overland is one of the only games this year to offer a font choice that's designed to aid those with dyslexia. A number of games this year also use built-in screen reader tech to have the game speak its text to you. Here's how Eagle Island sounds when clicking through the menu.
Controls, save. Games, use right stick.
And Apex Legends can turn text chat messages into voice and voice chat messages into text, so you'll never miss people talking about your low-level profile.
Tadifa Pro says. Level 2. Onk. Why?
And finally, more games are giving players the chance to read text at their own speed. Bloodstained won't go on to the next line until you press a button, and Tangle Tower lets you pause the dialogue at any moment. Time's always ticking by in the clockwork space sim Outer Wilds, but you can have the game pause while reading text. And Kingdom Hearts 3 lets you slow down time when clicking through menus. Another key area for visual accessibility is color blindness, and this year saw some great approaches to the problem. The color dungeon in The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX wasn't much fun for those with deuteranopia. But this year's Switch remake adds things like distinct shapes on the enemies and unique cracks in the floor tiles to help distinguish between the different colors. Far Cry New Dawn has another simple colorblind mode, which makes key on-screen elements become pink and yellow. Total War 3 Kingdoms lets you switch the color scheme of the game's different factions.
It's gone.
And Resident Evil 2 lets you pick the laser dot color of your weapons to help it stand out from the background. Apex Legends has one of the better features, with 3 distinct palettes and a preview of what those...
Wait, where's the other mission that we have to go to? It was D. Should be here, but it's not. What? Where's my objective? What is the story mission that we're supposed to do next? It was here before, right? Well, why did it disappear? It was the letter D. That's odd.
Colors will look like right there on the menu. And The Outer Worlds doesn't confer information solely through color by design because one of the company's directors is colorblind. Some games, though, are still using these full-screen filters, which often don't work as intended and only really have the effect of making the game look ugly and gross. The full-screen Protanopia filter in Modern Warfare, for example, doesn't stop red enemy names from blending into the background at key moments. Thankfully, the Call of Duty series has long since switched from red and green teams to red and blue ones. Some games do still use colour as the exclusive way to convey information. In Death Stranding, the labels on your packages go from yellow to red to indicate how beaten up they are, plus some tiny scuffs and scratches.
So
those labels are practically identical to those with certain types of colour blindness. Thanks to Twitter user Razorbeams for pointing that one out.
okay, but so what? It's a color in that case is very important, it would seem. Okay, we gotta get involved in this too. Why are you holding this up? Hey, 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 calm down, hombreros. Hombres. There we go. Stupid horse. Where's the enemy? Is it the lady? Can't be. Why is she red? Weird. But yeah, it's like sometimes, you know, that's when you gotta let it go when it's colors. You can, I guess, for like, you can add a colorblind mode, right, where you can definitely fix, you know, you can make it different for colorblinded people. But yeah, that would have to be a special mode. You still can't mess with like the rules of how it works.
Providing more visual clarity
Steven.
is a good way to alleviate the problems of color
What up,
blindness
party people?
and help
Hey.
with other visual disabilities.
Yeah, we talked about Alanah Pearce. We responded to her video, and we also took a look at her video. Well, that's because you thought you could fix her. Turns out you really can't, I think. And what else? We watched the Superman video, costume one, and now we're going through accessibility and how that sort of started, and like where did it find its meaning, who even thought of it, and why is it even like where did it start out? And you know, we're looking at Game Maker's Toolkit, who is really trying to normalize that sort of language, for better or for worse. And then Steven says, dang, I'll move on to girls in my life, I guess.
In Eagle Island, you can dim the background to make the foreground layer easier to see. Plus, you can put outlines around enemies and objects to help them pop out. In FIFA 20, you can boost the size of the player indicators. And in Ghost Recon Breakpoint, you can not only boost the size of the user interface, but you can put shadows behind indicators and markers to ensure they stand out from the background.
Motor? What is this?
One of the most requested features when it comes to accessibility is the option to remap a game's controls. This lets players with motor disabilities put all of the key functions in easy-to-reach places, or avoid using difficult inputs like touchpads or the buttons under the analog sticks. Unfortunately, some games still don't offer any controller options whatsoever, including the Zelda remake, the avant-garde Postman Pat episode Death Stranding, and the zombie biker game Days Gone.
Again,
Other
it shouldn't
games
be
make
on.
do with presets.
It shouldn't be on video game developers to have to create those.
Youngblood, just have you pick between a few developer-made.
Sometimes certain games can't do it.
Not good enough. But I'm really pleased
You
to
need a
see
special
just how
controller
many
for
games
that.
this year let you pick your own button placement. The Surge 2, Team Sonic Racing, and Sekiro Shadows Die Twice have full remapping. And Devil May Cry 5 shows how it's important to provide this on a game level, rather than relying on the system level remapping, by letting you independently wire up the inputs for the game's 3 distinct characters, Nero, Dante, and V. Apex Legends and Borderlands 3 go a step further, and don't just let you pick your own buttons, but give you really in-depth control over things like camera sensitivity and dead zone options, plus there are aim assist and aim snap options to help you pick out targets. Also of note is Overland, where the entire game can be played with just a mouse, or just a controller, or just a keyboard. those are really strong options that should open the game up to a wide range of players. This year's MVP though is Gears 5. Between controller remapping, the ability to make the camera follow behind your character, and the option to use the left stick for aiming when your gun is raised, you can basically play the game with one hand. Tricky, but possible thanks to a wide range of accessibility options.
Yeah, not every game can do
Is
this.
notable too for its casual control scheme that maps all important buttons onto one Switch Joy-Con, making it...
Steven says, that was a clever way to insult Death Stranding, which was free on Epic Games.
possible to play the game with just one hand. This
I mean, it deserves to be a free
option
game.
is especially welcome after the disastrously inaccessible Pokemon Let's Go, which forced players to use cumbersome waggle gestures to throw Pokeballs. Toggles are key too.
The remapping seems nice, especially for people who want to play with weird controllers like a Guitar Hero controller or Wii Nunchuck. Yeah, I mean, like, if the controller exists, like you've kind of given the good examples, people would be open to, like, developers would be open to go in that direction. Same with Mario Kart and how you can use a wheel. And so sometimes you can create a controller for people who, I don't know, don't have a hand or don't have two hands. And you can create those type of controllers. But again, that's not only the responsibility of the video game developer. Mudcap, TBH, people are better off skipping Pokemon Let's Go. That's true.
Down 3's lock-on mode, in Borderlands 3's aim, sprint and crouch options, and in Yoshi's Crafted World, where hasty and patient egg throwing is basically just about toggling or holding the aim button. These stop players from needing to hold a button down for great periods of time, which can be impossible with some motor disabilities. Unfortunately, not every game got the memo. You need to hold down the lock-on button in DMC5, and Team Sonic Racing should have just nicked Mario Kart 8's generous auto-drive option. Most games
The auto drive option, I know one of you uses it. I'm not going to say who, but hopefully that's changed. Hopefully. And yeah, it's pretty, I gotta say, it's annoying that happens, right? It's, you know, but I gotta say, with the Mario Kart auto drive option, it's also kind of, if you go with that option, it's actually worse in a lot of ways, because you can't take shortcuts, you can't kind of like go out of that comfort zone and really do well within a race as a pro. You're just going to be stuck in the background, so you won't be able to kind of get better. So that's also worth keeping in mind as well. Dang, I wanted to get a different video also, but I'm having the same issue as I did before.
Turn off these button bashy QuickTime events these days, but there's sadly no such option in Jedi Fallen Order. Finally, let's take a moment to talk about difficulty settings in games. Offering more lenient challenge levels can give players with disabilities more time to deal with threats, but also allows players with all sorts of skill levels to get into games. This year we saw lots of games with plenty of difficulty options to pick from, and the language used on these options is much better. Instead of patronizing players who choose to play on easy, this year's games talk about wanting to feel like a badass or just focus on the storyline.
Like, that's the appeal of the Wolfenstein games, even though they're not the best ones. That's the joke. That's the joke. And, oh, you made me feel bad for playing on the harder difficulty. Grow up. You should be made feel. You should feel kind of like a wimp for playing on an easier difficulty. Far Cry. I always dive normally. I always drive normally. Yeah, that's good. Oh yeah, you're trying to get to the bottom of this. Woodcap, the auto drive option just makes it harder to play the game. Far Cry Lego, same goes for Doom. There is an auto shoot for Doom.
The exact nature of these difficulty modes
I guess auto aim.
Described to the player. Astral Chain's Unchained
Make me feel good that I play on the weakest difficulty possible.
Will do the hard combos for you, but won't give you a letter ranking. And Resident Evil 2's assisted difficulty mode replenishes your health. Some developers note which difficulty level is intended by the designers, which is great. Super Mario Maker 2 continues Nintendo's campaign for assist modes with the option to bring up a palette of blocks and items that you can place inside levels to help you out. And Yoshi's Mallow mode gives you infinite flight to breeze through stages, which is perfect for really young players. And also
yeah,
on
that's just pretty stupid. Kids should be expected to play actual games and just learn to be better. Otherwise, you have them rage quit and just, treating kids like they're stupid and they can't play games. That's the point. You want them to get better at the game. So, comparing kids to like, speaking of comparing kids to disability, you're kind of doing that with accessibility. No, they should just learn. That's it.
There's the rhythm action roguelike Cadence of Hyrule.
By the way, is Steven still here? Just wondering, real
Which
quick.
typically expects players to move to the beat of the music. I don't know if having no sense of rhythm counts as a disability, but I personally really appreciated the game's fixed beat mode, which lets you move without conforming to the beat of the song. But then there's Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice.
Here we go.
You saw it coming. I don't want to replay the conversation the internet had back at the game's launch, because there's more than enough articles, videos, and tweet storms out there about easy modes and whatnot. But it is worth noting that From Software's latest game is actually less accessible than the notoriously tough Dark Souls and Bloodborne. And that's because it takes out key features like the ability to level up your character or invite a friend into your game to help out with the bosses. Sekiro does offer some accessibility options like full controller remapping and toggles, but there's nothing to make the game less grueling.
What?
And I think that makes Sekiro stand out in a year
Yeah.
where developers have typically tried to make their games as approachable and
As you
accessible
should.
as possible, and often through completely optional tweaks and modes that don't affect the
Crazy.
experience for the able-bodied or hardcore player. That's not to say there aren't missteps. It's clear that games still have a long way to go with accessibility, with annoying oversights like too small text, features that don't work if you're colorblind, and silly stuff like how boosting both the UI and the subtitles in Borderlands 3 makes the text fall off the side of the screen.
This should not be a problem.
And it's especially aggravating when a game makes big strides in one area but stumbles in others, like Control, with its huge subtitles but small UI text. Or publishers that aren't consistent across their games, most notably Nintendo, which has...
Woodcap, there was this puzzle IGN, and GameStop complained about being difficult in SpongeBob game when it took me 2 tries to solve it at the age of 7. Did you see that one tutorial video of somebody playing Cuphead? It was a games journalist, of course, at IGN. And it took a child to beat it faster than it took an actual adult. It's embarrassing. Anyway, we're back here.
Great features in some games, but a complete
Borderlands
lack of
3 is not
options in
counting
others.
it ended with
Plus,
Tails.
we're seeing a number of games where important accessibility options are being added
I've
to
never
the
played
game
Borderlands.
months after release in
You must be
downloadable
excited for the
patches.
movie then, huh?
Better late than never, of course, but it's not a good look when players with
Get down.
certain disabilities have to wait ages to play a huge Sony game like
How did you
Days
not
Gone.
shoot him correctly?
But still, I'm
can't
actually
aim.
really impressed by the strides we've seen in 2019. Ubisoft continues to be the
why are you
industry leader in
reloading?
this space, with amazing features across Far Cry New Dawn, The Division 2, and Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Microsoft's doing great too. Gears 5 has an enormous selection of options, from colorblind settings to controller remapping to button toggles to gore and language filters, making it one of the most feature-packed games of the year. Respawn works really hard, with great options in both Apex Legends and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Borderlands 3 has a lot of thoughtful options, which is good for a series that has struggled with this stuff in the past. Overland and Eagle Island are jam-packed with accessibility features, despite being made by tiny indie teams. And hardcore, ultra-challenging games like Devil May Cry 5 and Astral Chain want everyone to join in, and so offer practice areas, assisted combos, and easy difficulty settings. But those looking for a challenge will not struggle to find it. But most of all, it's just impressive to see how almost every major game this year includes some kind of accessibility option or a full accessibility menu, and how studios like Microsoft, Ubisoft and EA are publishing info on their accessibility options online so players can make better purchasing decisions. How Microsoft dedicated its 2019 Super Bowl commercial to its adaptive Xbox controller, and how the Fortnite clan FaZe enlisted the deaf player Ewok, who can tear up the competition thanks to the game's clever audio visualizer.
What is that skull
Because
behind me?
games are for everyone. It's just that developers might need to provide a few extra options.
Not all games are for everyone. I'm sorry to inform
thanks
you.
so much for watching, and cheers to accessibility specialist Ian Hamilton once again for his assistance and wisdom. This was probably the most expensive video I've ever made, and it's about accessibility options? What is wrong with me? But this is all totally possible thanks to GMTK supporters who back me on Patreon or buy GMTK merch from my Teespring store. Details on...
So that was that video. Steven's not here, is he, right? He might have left. Okay, because I had a video just in mind for him, but since he's not here, let's quickly go to his 2021 video. But
every year, I like to take a moment to check in with the games biz
jump through
and see how things are going in terms of accessibility. That's the art of making a game playable for a wider group of people by
gonna
employing
jump around in
options
this
and
one.
design decisions that can help remove the barriers that get in the way of the fun. For example, if someone struggles to hear the dialogue, subtitles can give you the same information in text form. If someone can't distinguish between two colors, they can be made more distinct with symbols or a custom color palette. And if someone is just struggling to get through a game, they can get a helping hand through an assist mode. So, how did the games of 2021 fare in this regard? Well, I'm Mark Brown, and this is Game Maker's Toolkit. So, I started with the blockbusters. I picked 25 of the most noteworthy, best-selling AAA games released in the last 12 months. From Halo Infinite to Ratchet & Clank. From Deathloop to Metroid Dread. From Battlefield 2042 to Age of Empires 4. And then I assessed
Metroid
the
Dread,
accessibility
run.
options on show. That's what I found. Let's start with controls. As ever, a really important option is the ability to change what the buttons do. And of the games I played this year, a whopping 70% of them offer full remapping. That is awesome. That number just keeps on growing. And a few more offer presets, which is better than nothing. A standout game for controls
Again, that's not
is
disability.
Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. You can fully remap the controls and put shortcuts to specific inputs on the D-pad. Plus, for pretty much every button that you need to hold down, you can instead make it toggle that action on and off. There's also a really strong aim assist, and you can even turn that into a lock-on. You can automatically rotate the camera behind the character. You can simplify all traversal down to a single button, and more. It's great. Another standout game is Far Cry 6. It divides every button on the controller into 3 different actions: press, hold, and double tap. And so you can freely map any action between any of those slots. There's also a quick no stick presses mode to instantly remove all inputs related to clicking in the analog sticks. Also worth celebrating.
Woodcap, seeing Ratchet's new design physically hurts. Yeah, what they did to that character is just sad. I mean, they just desanitized him so much, and yeah, there's just unfortunate in general. Steven, you're here. Good. I just needed you around because I wanted you. I was thinking of you when I saw this one video. And cover your ears if you... Wait, yeah. Cover your ears, but this one's for you, Steven, if at first. Or like keep down the volume because I'm going to drop it into this video.
I keep trying to get Banjo to go for a swing. You're not familiar.
Okay. So this video is called... Hold on. This video is for you, Steven. And it is called... Hi, this is my coming out. That's literally what it is. That's the video, and it's Alanah's coming out video for this year during Pride Month. It released like 5 days ago in June, at the very end of June. So I don't know if you knew that, but she identifies as. Well, let's see. Let's see what she identifies as. But I thought it was hilarious. Just something for Steven.
With my dog Banjo, everybody. He has to get physical therapy twice a week because he needed hip replacement surgery right before we got him. So
She
we
likes
helped him
talking
get through
too.
rehab, and he still needs that rehab because he's got a bad hip. And he does the underwater treadmill thing twice a week, so we know he likes water. A friend had a party not that long ago, and they had one of those shallow kiddie pools, and Banjo was in it by himself. He loves water. He's really afraid of the pool though. So I'm trying to convince him that pool is maybe okay with treats. He keeps barking at me because he's like, I can't swim. You can. You're a dog. Anyway, I'm making a video.
A 30-year-old woman talking about her dog. I mean, does it get any more stereotypical than that? Oh boy, this is gonna be good. Oh yeah, it's really going to be good. I watched just some of it. I was like, okay. The rest of this I shall leave for the stream. Steven says remapping is good, but I like some of the weird controls that you can't remap. Kid Icarus Uprising and Metroid Prime Hunters required you to use the stylus for camera makes it more immersive, and it presents a nice learning curve. Yeah, and changing that is going to destroy everything about the game.
Today, because like I said, I'm chilling in this beautiful pool. I try to make sure that all of the videos that go on this channel are not like my main channel where I'm sitting behind a computer desk. At least I'm doing something. So
yes, this is her extra channel, her second one called Alanah IRL.
So if you didn't know, I maybe 2 years ago posted on Twitter during Pride Month where I basically came out. Feels weird to even use that term, and I'll elaborate on it today, but it feels weird because essentially I'm not straight, and that's not something that I had ever hidden in any capacity. I feel like I always made it pretty obvious. I'm very, very lucky, and then I felt no pressure, and I had no identity struggles. It's something I've known my entire life, and my family doesn't care. So the only reason that I made the coming out post was when friends who are part of the LGBT community basically were like, you could probably help some people if you said something. And I know that I have now after I posted that. But it was also just that one post that just kind of, disappeared after it happened. So I thought I would make this video. It's a weird one because, like I said, it's not an identity thing that I struggle with, but a lot of people do. And so if me sharing helps somebody, then I love that. That's great. So as for what my identity is, I don't care about labels.
Drum, please.
Don't care what you want to call
Drum
it.
roll.
I think the term that fits me best, based on the literal description, is pansexual. I've had many a bigot be like, "You're just bi." Okay, if you want to call me bi, I don't give a shit. Whatever.
So pansexual means that she is into pans. No, it means that she's gonna explain it.
But for me, it's basically I don't really care about somebody's gender or genitals in any way whatsoever. I don't care what you have, and I don't care what you identify as. There is no particular gender orientation identity that I dislike. All fine when it comes to the spectrum of sexuality. And I feel like pansexual encompasses that really well based on the literal definition, but again, I'm not picky. If I were to actually give it a definition, it would be I just kind of like everything. And so yeah, it's not something that I talk about super often because it's just sort of the way I've always been. I've never attended a pride, and I don't necessarily feel proud of it. That's not to say you shouldn't, obviously. It's just the way that I am, and I'm fine with it. The thing about me that I think is probably more unique, because I'm sure if a lot of people think about it, they probably do identify as pan. It's you just like certain people, right? That's it. The other
So
facet
this
of
video is
sexuality
just
that I have
rambling,
that
as
also
you
has a
guys can
term that I
see.
didn't know, again, it's just the way I've always been, that I'm much more specific about is a term called demisexual. So I would be both pansexual and demisexual. Pansexual covers the things I'm attracted to, but demi is more hyper-specific. And this one requires me to reveal some personal details, but it's fine. Personal details I'm fine with. Demisexual means that you basically are not sexually attracted to people unless you know them as a person. So, for example, I have never had a one-night stand and find the idea repulsive. You could present me with the most attractive person on earth, but the idea of them touching me, or anything, me touching them, anything, if I do not know them as a person and I'm not attracted to their personality, repulsive. Do not want it. again, I can definitely be attracted to people. I think Michael B. Jordan is very attractive. Salma Hayek, my number one female celebrity crush is Kate Beckinsale. I just think she's so hot and so cool. You could present me with any of those people, who I know more than I know a stranger, but unless I was attracted to them as a person, which means it would require me to like get to know them as a person, I don't want to touch them. I'm also like, in the same vein, not a hugger. I will hug people if like
What is
they come to
this?
hug me or whatever, or if it like feels like I socially have to. But I'm not a very touchy person unless I am in a monogamous relationship, in which case I'm very touchy. But basically this means it's not out of principle. I don't give a shit what anybody else does, what anyone else is attracted to. But I am just not at all interested in any kind of sexual contact outside of a monogamous relationship. Again, that's not a moral standard. It's just something I
Yeah, so
do.
she's
Like,
she's Far Cry Lego, so she's bi. Essentially, it's just that they're now creating all these different distinctions about like, oh, if you have like a romantic attraction, then it's different from a sexual one, or like if you don't have any preference, but you still, it's like you're open to everything. It's just, so yeah, Steven, that's right. Your girl is a pansexual, and you're gonna have to cope with that. I don't know if you can fix her. Uh, But hey, that doesn't mean she's not into you. It just means that she has to get to know you better, and it means that you've just got more competition. That's it. Steven, so no hookups, but no relationships either. TLDR, she's single and liberal, and threw her hat in as a LGBT community. And Far Cry Lego says, so bi with extra steps. Essentially. That's what that is, pansexual. Pan is bi with extra steps, yes. Steven, she straight up implied that she wants a long-term monogamous relationship. No, I got actual girls in my life to talk to. Pan is just horny, says Steven.
just actively repulsed personally by the idea of a one-night stand. I want to be super clear. Don't care if you do that. Do whatever you want. I don't judge other people for it. But for me personally, the idea of being any kind of intimate with a person that I don't
What is the
know
point of just being okay with everything for everyone? Like, that just tells me you have no standards. You can only kind of like speak for yourself because you're scared to hold others to accountable for their actions too. And then you do that sometimes, but when it comes to like relationships and like what is acceptable, you have none of that, and you're okay with that. But then if you're okay with that, then why are you okay with, I don't know, in general, like religion, right? Are you okay with like people having different religions? But then what if those people think that your sexuality is not okay? Are you okay with that religion then? Clearly not, right? Steven, TBF, to be frank, at least she didn't turn the bikini pool stream into a thirst trap. Being okay with everyone is just being a yes man for fear of societal rejection. Yeah, right now, yeah, that's very much true.
Never gonna happen. Not in a million years. Repulsed by it. And that, again, I didn't even really know there was a term for it until I heard a friend talk about it. Is demisexual. It doesn't mean I don't find people attractive. I can be very attracted to people. I just don't want them to touch me, or do not want to touch them.
Don't touch me.
I never want to have any kind of physical intimacy unless I am, intimately familiar with who they are as a person and really attracted to their personality. That one feels more uncommon to me. Like, I feel like a lot of people who identify as bi are probably also pan, or like just like don't know the term or aren't familiar with it. But the demi one I think is a little more unusual, and sometimes people have like a lot of trouble even rationalizing it when they find out that about me. Like, how does that work? Like, wait, you still think people are hot? And like, yeah, I can still look at somebody and be like, damn, that person is really attractive.
So this is
I
your
can still
coming out
enjoy
video.
It's like just the whole thing is so foreign to me. Just the idea of like being on a dating app and someone being like, hey, want to go get a drink tonight? a person I don't know, which is like convenient for me because I'm also like
Just rambling.
in relationships. I am fiercely loyal because
Like
of
you
that,
have
right?
too much time on your hands, lady. Stephen, the ladies have a preference to groupthink due to evolution as women in communities helped each other raising kids. And with PPD, what is PPD?
Direct-minded in a relationship.
PPD.
But I'm also totally fine being single, so it is fine for me either way. I could be single forever and be completely fine. I am like tremendously privileged in that I've always been fully comfortable with all of this. It's never been a struggle. I've never questioned any of it. I feel like I've just always been exactly the way that I am with this particular kind of stuff. That's all I really have to say. It's a lovely day. I'm just chilling in this pool. I've been in here for a while. I should probably get out or I'm gonna get burnt. Thought I would just have a chat with you all. Because I was planning on swimming with Banjo, but he said, no, absolutely not. And that's how we got where we are. I just think he'd love it so much. I'm just so sure if you got him in here, he would love it so much.
I mean, you missed it, Stephen, but
I don't want to just throw him in because he's a pretty.
she said she was open to changing the labels of situational disability. And, but then she did say that she kind of accused those people of being oversensitive on purpose. Whatever that means. But she said she's fine with it. And, so that was kind of reassuring, honestly.
Timid dog in some ways. He's a very good guard dog. He's scary. He will scare people off. But outside of that, he's just like very...
Oh, what happened? Hold on. Something's, brewing.
Ándeles lindas, simpatrióticas. Dale, que ustedes son putas y lo saben.
Por favor, no me obligas.
Oh, mi amor, nadie te está obligando a hacer nada. Solamente quiero que animes al hombre que va a salvar a tu padre. ¿Tú quieres a tu padre, cierto que sí, linda? Huh?
What's going on here, Captain DeSanta?
Just a little recruitment. Nothing for you to be concerned about.
Kinda sus.
Women soldiers now?
Our costumes are none of your concern.
Apparently not.
Santo mariconcito, me encontraste algunas chicas. Ay, mamacita, ¿dónde has estado toda mi vida? Ve, mujeres, ay, me gusta.
These two Patriots were keen to make your acquaintance, el coronel.
Fantastic, I love patriots. Hey, Sergeant Marston, you here to fight the war? And we shall make a patriot of you yet.
I hope so. Any word of those men?
Oh, yes, I heard they were riding with Reyes. I wanted to talk to you about it. De Santo, hable con él. Tell him what I wanted.
His Excellency, El Coronel, would like to employ you in escorting a train down rebel country. The job is dangerous, but you'll have the honor of...
Another patriot?
Of knowing that you served Mexico in her fight against forces that would destroy our society.
How much you offering?
20,000 pesos. And information as to the whereabouts of Javier Escobar.
Who is this guy? Look at his face.
Okay, then.
Mexico loves you, Mr. Martin.
She has a funny way of showing it.
Hurry! We must go!
In that case, let's go. Steve. Oh, sorry. Steven. It can lead to women going crazy. Oh, postpartum depression. Oh, is PPD. It can lead to women going crazy, trying to run from their life, leave the husband, possible infanticide, and severe depression. They lose their minds after the birth of a kid. I'll send you the poem. Hig, I think Hig is probably the name. I'll send you the poem Hig. Some of the old folklore are possibly born from ladies trying to cope with and explain away actions that arise from postpartum depression. Interesting. Yeah, send them away. We'll take a look at them, maybe not today, but very interesting stuff. So this is Alanah.
Is Battlefield.
Oh, crap, sorry. And yeah. Where is she? Where are you? Oh, right. Here.
Very afraid of new things. I mean, he was a stray, you know? He's just like scared of unfamiliar things. If anything makes a noise.
So it's about her dog. So we get it. We get it. She's just living her life, guys. We're not bullying her, are we? I don't think we are. But I'm sorry for her being caught up in all that stuff. I feel sorry for her, but oh well. I can't save her. Or can I?
2042.
Thoughts and prayers.
For its enormous array of options regarding controller sensitivity, right down to the different size scopes. And Riders Republic, which lets you set unique control schemes for its endless methods of transport. I'm also a fan of games that let you bypass button-bashing QTEs, which includes It Takes Two, Guardians of the Galaxy, and House of Ashes. As for games that need to see me after class, well, I'm definitely not a fan of all these games with sluggish, Destiny-inspired virtual cursors on their menus, including Deathloop and Outriders. They can be a nightmare for accessibility, and they're just horrible in general. Ugh. Thankfully, Far Cry 6 and Pokemon Snap, which also have these cursors, let you click through the menus with the D-pad as well. But the worst offender of the year? Well, I asked my Twitter followers to name games with poor accessibility and was hit with a wave of tweets
Let's see what
all
they
mentioning
say.
the same game, Metroid Dread.
Oh,
And
come on.
I've got to agree. It's full of bizarre moves that require multiple buttons to be held down.
Okay.
There are plenty
I mean,
of
I
bits
haven't
that
played
require
it, but
very granular
there were so many like dishonest people criticizing this game back then. It was crazy.
movements of the analog stick, and there are absolutely no controller options in the menu. Big fat F right there. Next up, audio. A big
Alright.
deal here.
So we know what the audio stuff is. Let's reach his final conclusions.
Here's just a few. Boyfriend Dungeon has a content warning for its challenging themes, and also lets you turn off a feature where your mum calls you up with advice, just in case that makes certain players uncomfortable. Boomerang X has great contrast options like letting you highlight key enemies with a colour of your choice. Chicory, a colourful tale, lets you fiddle with endless settings, letting you turn off everything from flashing effects to moist sound effects. Ew. Loop Hero's got a retro aesthetic, but you can increase readability by turning off the CRT effect and switching the pixel font to a standard one. 2D and Top D's got an assist mode with game speed and infinite lives. The new Outer Wilds DLC lets you turn off spooky jump scares. And we saw some excellent audio-only games that can be played without sight, like action-adventure The Veil Shadow of the Crown and reckless driving game Blind Drive, which is about using the incredible audio design to know when to swerve into another lane. So, on the whole, I'm
On
impressed.
the whole, there we go.
Almost every game I sampled has some option intended to make the game playable to those with specific needs. More than half of the games feature a dedicated accessibility or assist menu, and many have these options available as soon as the game loads up for the first time, or have a screen reader turned on by default. But here's the thing. All of this is almost exactly what I said in last year's video. You know, key features like subtitles and controller remapping are in the majority of games. Indie devs and companies like Microsoft, EA, and Ubisoft are doing great, and Japan is sadly lagging behind. So I feel like we're now at a point where accessibility is just a given in games, which is excellent and a huge change. Like if we look at, say, Eurogamer in 2011, there wasn't a single article that mentioned accessibility or disability. 10 years later, there are dozens of reports on features and players and company initiatives and so on. Accessibility is just here, and it's here to stay. But now, it's time to make this stuff work properly. You see, as awesome as it is to see these features in the menu, they're not
Are we
always
saying it as a
perfect
good thing?
in execution. Those excellent subtitles in Guardians of the Galaxy, great, until they glitch out like this. Deathloop lets you toggle on running, but not aiming, and Hitman 3 lets you toggle on aiming, but not running. Far Cry 6's captions just say animal noise, whether that's a harmless bird or a killer crocodile, and Battlefield's menu narrator mispronounces the first two words it has to say.
Menu narration disable. Menu narration enable. Menu narration disable. Menu narration enable.
What is this, a GMTK episode? So at this point, I can safely say, yes, lots of games have lots of accessibility options. Now the question is, are they any good? It's no longer that noteworthy for a game to have these features.
Rock Lego says it is meant to be for the fans.
Robust and
yeah, Metroid Dread was supposed to be for the fans. And some people don't like that.
Reliable. And I think we'll get there as devs hire more consultants and bake this stuff into their game engines and share their knowledge and iterate based on feedback and telemetry. But that's going to be difficult for me
That's his problem.
to ascertain. I don't live with a
Should have
disability,
stayed alive.
so I don't need to rely on these options, and I don't have to judge their effectiveness every time I play. Thankfully, there are sites like Can I Play That and Dega who are putting in the hard work to thoroughly review these games from an accessibility perspective, using gamers with disabilities as their reviewers. There's also the Taming Gaming database, and any indie devs watching can get their game listed by DMing the site over on Twitter. But ultimately, I think this means I need to cover accessibility in
a lot of people
way.
waited for Metroid
So
Dread,
the
a
last
2D
annual wrap-up
Metroid game.
of this type. But don't worry, accessibility is not going anywhere.
Whoa.
It's one of the key values for how I run
Why isn't my
GMTK,
gun on?
whether it's using it as a lens to
The
analyze
flip?
game design or putting full subtitles on every video on this channel. So perhaps there are just better ways for me to talk about it going forward. That starts with me putting accessibility options in my own work over in my game dev series, Developing. More on that soon. And I'll continue to think about how I can cover this topic in 2022. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and thanks to the gamers and consultants.
Yeah, so that was the video. And since we've got one more mission left, let's hear from other people on this discussion. I know it kind of feels like it's a dead horse at this point, but let's see if anyone else has anything interesting to say. This one is accessibility in video games is important.
Seeing that Elden Ring, which is basically Dark Souls 4 now open world, was gonna come out this year and it came out, I thought to myself, hey, this would be a good time to make a video.
Steven, if Metroid Dread actually came out for the DS, then the DS would have had 3 Metroid games. Game Boy Advance, GameCube, Wii, and DS would have even been the best generation for Metroid fans. Well, I think, I think you guys were pretty satisfied with Metroid Dread, right? I haven't played it. I'm still in the middle of playing some Metroid games. I finished Super Metroid last year, so that was pretty good game. It was a pretty good game. But look, he's starting out with Elden Ring again.
About accessibility because, of course, when the game gets released, there will be some comments and discussions and constant drivel on the internet about difficulty, which is gonna lump accessibility in there as well and make everything
I
seem
will play Dread
utterly
eventually.
depressing. There'll be one side who, according to the other side, is saying that games should be so easy to play that you can even just stare at them with your eyes closed.
I'm playing Metroid Samus and Returns and Prime Hunters at the moment. And how are they? Fuck, will I go after everything you played, every Metroid? Oh, after everything you play. Wait. After you played, I don't know what. After everything you've played, play every Metroid game, since it is the last in the timeline. Oh, I see. Play it as the last one. Got it. Cool. Yeah, that's probably what I'm planning to do.
And bam, you win. And the other side will say that the other side thinks that the game should cut off your hand as part of the installation process, otherwise it's not a
This
real
guy sounds
game.
bored.
But as I look around, I don't see that. Elden Ring seems to have been a game that is, for the most part, accessible. I mean, they even put bonfires before boss battles, so that's something. But still, accessibility is an important thing that we must be aware of. Now, some of you may be saying to yourself, well, I don't need a
The Gatling gun.
I ain't the soldier here, Captain.
Do not question me, gringo. Just do as I say.
Alright, Samus Returns is good, but I put it down for too long, and it is weird to come back, so I'll restart it the same way for Prime Hunters. Yeah, I have the same thing with RPGs. A lot of times if I put them off for too long, gotta restart, which is bad because RPGs are the hardest to get into because of how long they are, right?
Accessibility, I'm perfectly capable of playing video games to their fullest and always will be, forever. The rapid onslaught of time will not dwell my abilities, and misfortune will not visit me and make me a shell of my former self. I am immortal. I am indestructible. Well, you're not. Sorry to break it to you, you're not. You're going to be 80 years old at some point in the future if we all survive the...
Okay.
Let's not talk about that. And you will want to play the games from your youth, only to find that you don't have that ability anymore. And not just because...
Is that true? Because I know a lot of older people who are actually playing a lot of these games. I know, crazy. I mean, I don't know them personally, but I know older people play video games. Maybe not Dark Souls, but listen, if you can't play Dark Souls when you're older, like, who cares? Again, you're trying to include everyone within this discussion of disability and inclusion, and it's like, no, stop. Just let the developers do their thing. Oh, these guys are getting slaughtered for sure. This is beautiful. Can I inflict damage on my own vehicle? Are those the good guys, bad guys? Okay. Good. Die. Alright. Steven, I think I can't put down any Metroidvanias ever. Or even Guacamelee. Once I leave it, I'm lost when I return. Yeah, that's true. That is the case. You really have to have that memory, which I guess, yeah, with Metroidvanias, that really is even more true.
The game is now unplayable because nobody bought games from GOG, and now GOG is gone, and all the DRM servers are gone for all the old
By the way, I
games.
was supposed to tell you guys about the beef I had with somebody. So I guess I can kind of tell you about it. So, you guys, I don't know if you guys know, like, the Instagram page called Pine Sap. But he and I kind of had like a back and forth on Instagram because of the recent schism situation in the Catholic Church. And I just, I don't know, it's like everyone seems to be extremely happy to choose a side, right? But because there's like this one bishop who criticized the Pope, right? And so he was now found guilty of being a schismatic. Okay, well, if you read his letters, there were some like valuable points he was making about like the Second Vatican and how it changed a lot of things and made it modern, the church modern in a lot of ways. And yeah, of course he disavowed the Pope, and that's like, I guess that's wrong, right? But at the same time, the people who disavowed, like the reasoning of this bishop who disavowed the Pope said that he's disavowing him. And I don't know if he always disavowed him or just because he got excommunicated that he did that. I'm not sure. But nobody is really talking about it. Like everyone is just kind of like dogpiling on this guy. And it's like, okay. And so that was kind of like the beef where I'm like, okay, well, he was criticizing a priest, right? In his post, and it's like, on what basis are you criticizing a priest if a bishop is not allowed to criticize a pope, right? Seems kind of hypocritical, no? And so he got upset by that, and he didn't like it. Didn't like that I make that, and he threatened me that he was going to block me for insinuating that he was like the same as him. It's like, wow, incredible. And it's like, no, that's not what I was trying to do. I was just trying to get his perspective more so, because his initial reaction to the whole thing was just the typical LARPing as a crusader sort of thing. Where it's like, oh, this guy is just a total heretic and he deserved it, and that's it. It's like, okay, but is anyone going to talk about like what he said? Because me going into this like from the outside, it's like I don't know what happened necessarily, and I want to do research, and it'd be nice if people who actually dissed this guy actually knew what they were talking about, and it doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like everyone doesn't seem to want to say why he got, like, what is it? Oh crap. And so that was the beef. And I'll kind of expand on it tomorrow on Instagram for everyone. But that's like the background of it. And it happened like just right before the stream, and I'm like, oh great. And he like posted my comment on his page without like showing my profile picture, and it's and yeah, it was pretty mad. Pretty mad. Alright, let's focus on this. So that's what happened. Anyway, let's listen to this guy and what he has to say here now.
That you used to like, and piracy is illegal because of that chip, the RAAA, stuck in your head that will blow up your face if you even think about cracking an executable. No, you'll have trouble playing those games because, well, you don't have that dexterity anymore, that ability
Doesn't
to
matter.
see properly,
That means you should no longer play the game.
quickly enough, that ability to move enough of your fingers. And the thing is, that's only something that will actually affect games released from one period of time going forward, because back in the olden days, the vast majority of computer games were turn-based. That's how things worked. You couldn't really do much real-time since, well, processing power and things that were real-time really behaved a lot like they were turn-based anyway. Think back to the not oldest, some of the earlier flight simulators. It used to run at maybe 10 frames a second. That was basically turn-based, honestly, at this point. Most games released up until the 3D revolution, I guess.
I guess I like that he's trying to make a different point. Like he's trying to further the conversation.
The mouse, or some of them with just a joystick. Very limited input, you could do a lot. Just think about Fallout 1 and 2. You could play them with just a mouse. You could enjoy them with very little actual problems, with very limited ability of motion, of movement. Same goes for most PC games from back then. Civilization, Heroes of Might and Magic, most of the Ultimas. Hell, because of the speed setting, even
we're doing good so
games
far.
like StarCraft or Warcraft or Command and Conquer. Speed actually
Infinite
is one
ammo.
of the most important factors when it comes to accessibility. Exactly how quickly I can react to the game without it becoming increasingly more stressful, more challenging, to the point where it's not enjoyable anymore. It is just a chore. One that
The
I
OG
cannot
Fallout
achieve.
games
I'm
are
not saying
great.
games should be slower. I'm saying that where there's the possibility
Fuck,
that
where'd I
the
go?
speed setting one would not hurt, and I say this knowingly that it would not.
You
hurt.
would in
One
most
game that I
games.
just recently covered.
Platformers, shooters, everything. Metroidvanias. Puzzles. Well, puzzles don't. Depends. But speed is a huge factor.
Such a speed
It changes
setting,
the
they
core
call
of the
it
game, the
reflex
essence of
setting,
it.
Daggerfall. When you begin the game, it flat out asks you, how quickly do you want to play? On the lowest setting, you have time. You can decide exactly how quickly you want combat to function.
Even movie
allowing
games with
you
choices
to
have
more limited
timed
limited
moments.
reaction times to actually be able to enjoy a game. It even goes into the opposite direction, actually. Speeding up games can also make them more enjoyable, more accessible, because who the hell has hours and hours and hours to play a city builder or a tycoon? The speed setting is there to accelerate time and more quickly.
That's not
show you the results
accessibility,
of your
that's just
actions,
convenience.
Which is why it was monumentally stupid that the maximum speed setting was disabled for SimCity if you try to play it offline. Remember
We did
that
it, guys.
debacle? That absolute wank fest? Because I do. Probably gonna make a video just about that thing at some point. And this thing with the speed setting, it's not just for, older games like, StarCraft 1 or Daggerfall. One of my favorite games of the past couple of years, Synthetic, doesn't have a speed setting, but it has a speed sheet. I don't remember exactly the pre-requirements to unlocking it, but you can make it run at 50% speed, which granted makes the game easier, probably not the way that it was intended to be played, at full tilt, but it makes it more relaxing, and honestly, it does not detract all that much from the intensity. While yes, you can more carefully aim now that you have more time and better plan out your movements, you're still dealing with the same time frame in terms of what you can do. You can't move faster. The enemy's bullets will not hurt less. Those things that run after you and explode will still run.
Yeah, but it changes the core game.
Marston, thank you for your efforts. The escort was a success.
At least some of your men survived.
Nice.
Didn't think to survive myself. My whole life I have dreamed of a glorious death. Vamos. Rapido antes que nos ataquen otra vez. These socialist pigs cannot be allowed to win.
Yeah. Socialist pigs. And we did it. Alright, I think that's enough of new items are now available to purchase from stores. Cool, I think that's enough of the accessibility. I think we've talked about that long enough. I think next week is going to be dedicated to something else. I'm not saying I will never talk about accessibility ever again, because there's definitely going to be people who will try to stir something up. But I think for streams, that's definitely the end for us. And yeah, hopefully that was... Ooh, look at this. Look how far away it is. How crazy. I don't think that should be allowed, honestly. I don't think that should be allowed. Anyway. Yeah, I think we did it. And if you guys have any thoughts, let me know. But I think you guys should be fine. You guys shared enough of your thoughts. Thank you for being on this stream for reals, as always. You guys are total champs, and again, if you guys need anything like yourselves, then feel free to let me know. And like, if you want to create your own channels and stuff, I have some experience, of course, right, with the MJ and Spider-Man videos, and maybe I plan to do more. Ooh, yeah, that's right. I'm teasing some stuff, but yeah. So I think I'm in a place right now where I'm like, I think I want to do more videos, especially now that I'm kind of like seeing that, you know, not to say that I'm inspired by the drama that I'm in, but I just realized that, you know, there's a constant need to course correct people, and if we can do that with our videos, it'd be great. And we'll see how that'll go for us. But I think it's maybe time for us to return to making videos on YouTube. Just a thought. Just a thought. So, yeah. Alright, that's enough. Once again, thank you. Take care. Have a good night. Have a good day. And, yeah, that's it.